you hear snoring in the background, that's my dog.
Well, that you did. And I'm thinking, you know, I already see things.
Uh-oh. Namaste. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be across the planet, around the world. My name is Gregg Prescott from In5D.com, but you guys already knew that. Well, actually, probably some of you guys didn't. Some of you guys are here that follow Andy, that are looking forward to seeing our guest. And you're probably like, who the hell are you, you damn hippie? But no, that's who I am. I'm Gregg Prescott from In5D, as my mother calls it. As I call it, In5D. My mother, I've had this website since 2009, right? My mom still calls it In5D. Mom, it's In5D. It's not In5D. So yeah, In5D. Anyway, I'll be bringing Andy Monks on shortly. But first, as always, I want to cover this. Check out in5d.net for some amazing t-shirts. I just uploaded about 50. I made 50, and you should see my fingernails. They have dye underneath them. But they're loaded with the siesta key sand that's put into the dye, positive affirmations, ho'oponopono, and then shipped off to you ASAP with a ton of positive energy in them. So check them out. Also, I want you to check out our In5D Patreon page, where it helps to provide us this format with Zoom, and to help pay for my server as well, to provide everybody, you know, the 1 to 3 million people that visit in5d.com, place to go to look up anything they want. So check out that on Patreon. So that would be patreon.com/in5d. So without further ado, we're bringing back Andy Monks. Andy, welcome back to our In5D live show here.
Hey, great to be back. Thank you, Gregg.
It's our pleasure having you. So the last time, you guys know that we had this intense conversation, lasted quite a while. Originally, I told him, oh, it'll be about an hour, but ended up being a little bit longer than that. But we, Tracy, one of my moderators in YouTube, and I both gave Andy our pictures of our eyes. Now, they didn't come out as clear, especially mine. Tracy's came out better than mine. But Andy can read. There's a science behind reading your iris. And Andy, can you explain a little about that?
Yeah, it's called Iridology. The Iridology that I've learned and been trained with is through Dr. Morse. And Dr. Morse is my guru, master teacher. So I want to give credit where credit's due. Not to cannibalize the show, but when it gets time, definitely check out Dr. Morse, because pretty much what I'm doing is I'm rehashing mostly what I was taught through him. I've put my own spin on some of it, but for the most part, I'll be in harmony with his teachings here. So just another way of looking at it. So, but he teaches what's called lymphatic iridology. So it's the principles of iridology with a consideration of the lymphatic system.
So what can this study show you typically? So you're looking at somebody's iris, and what are you specifically looking for?
Well, there's many things that we can identify in the eye. It's a lot of different things. We can see the congestion of the lymph system, the degree of acidosis in the tissues and different aspects of the body. You can see the condition of, essentially what we're seeing in the eye when we're looking at the toxicity in the tissues is you can tell how hot the acidosis is one way of looking at it.
What does that matter, how hot the acidosis is or not?
Well, I put it that way purposely because a lot of times people when they think of acids, they don't necessarily think of burn, and they're hot like the sun. And that helps to understand that the acids are hot and heavy. It's a hot, heavy, dense chemistry. And that's why it does tissue damage, because our tissues are primarily calcium, phosphate compound. So we're basically a calcium being on a calcium planet. And so the acids dissolve and destroy tissue. So when you look in the eye and you see the darkened areas, it's not always the case, but it's very often the case that you're looking at damaged tissue. Oh, thank you. Sorry. Excuse me.
Room service.
Room service. Sorry. No, but, no, not at all. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
But anyway, so yeah, so that's one of the primary things that we're looking at in the eye, because, and the reason is because acidosis is the primary problem. So what we want to do is we want to cut to the chase on that and get right to getting the acids out and restoring the tissues. And so what we're looking at is detox process. And I'm looking for, right, I apologize, guys, I'm a little distracted here because I lost my screen where you are. So for some reason, I can't see you anymore. Can you see me fine, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. But so because I don't have my control screen to be able
We
to
go like this. We can go like that and then I'll bring it back to speaker view. Did that help?
Maybe
Up in the right-hand side, well, maybe you can do that yourself. Upper right-hand corner, click on gallery view or speaker view, either one of those things. So I'm not sure what you guys are seeing. I'm looking at this. What I'm showing is what is showing on YouTube right now. Right now I have it on speaker. So it's just you that's showing up. Or whoever's speaking at that time.
My little control screen for the app is nowhere to be found on my computer for some darn reason. I just barely had it. I don't see it anywhere here. I hope I don't have to relog, but let me see here. Oh, there we go. I got it. Sorry about that. I'm back now. So because what I wanted to do was do a quick screen share so that we can show people some of what that is, the dark spots and things.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to grab one now and we'll take a look. Well, I'll pull up your eyes, Greg, here.
Okay.
Let's see if we can see this. Can you guys see everything there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It is blurry, but what we're seeing is, so can you see my mouse here?
Yes.
I'm looking at this little dark spot. That would be an area where we would have a concentration of acidosis. But also, if you look here down below, you'll notice, I know it's really probably not very legible in this picture here, but well, you can look at the bigger one here and see how you can see that the GI tract is around the pupil. So when we look in your eye here, what we see is a darkened area, this darkened area. So for your sake, the concentration of acidosis is more in the GI. But sometimes you'll see, and it's interesting, everybody's eyes are different, and everybody's eyes are going to, everybody's body is going to deal with acidosis differently. So here in Tracy's eye, we see the primary thing I'm noticing here is the wavy, see these wavy fibers? These are the trabecula fibers. When those are wavy, that's indicative of a parathyroid weakness. And parathyroid controls connective tissue strength, bone density, and connective tissue. And as I was analyzing her eye, that might explain this Columbo, I believe it's called, which is indicative of a connective tissue weakness. So that's very likely, there's likely to be involvement, a relationship between the weakness in the pituitary and what we're seeing here in this eye condition. But also we see this pocket of acidosis right here. Now that is pretty much in the, it's pretty much the shoulder scapula, left shoulder, left scapula. So the question I would ask Tracy is, does she have a lot of pain in her left shoulder, kind of under her scapula area? Most likely she'll always feel like there's a little bit of pain right there, you know, and just feel like I've always got a knot right there in my back. Like I feel like I've got to go to the chiropractor all the time or something, you know? Is that the case? I don't know. Oh, you can hear me. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that's the amazing thing about the eye, is that it is just so accurate on that. And so you see these other little spots. I don't know if I can zoom in. Oops, sorry about that. Right here, if I could zoom in, but it would just be too grainy anyway. But even these little spots, these are all going to be indicative of pockets of weakness where the acidosis is going to be more prevalent. So that's the thing about our body is we've got strong areas of the body where it's strong and areas of the body where it's weak. And wherever the body is weak, it's going to be more prone to acidosis, because acidosis is pretty much our Achilles heels. As a calcium being, that's where we struggle. So, and the reason why in these areas, see, it's not brown like this. This is just straight up acidosis over here. But over here, it's more of a genetic weakness. And what you're having is less penetration of blood vessels, nerve endings, and lymphatic vessels, so that the tissues aren't as well serviced by the circulatory matrices of the body, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, another way of putting it is, think of like a tree and the roots of a tree and how the roots sprawl into the earth. It's sort of like that. It's penetration into the tissues for the purpose of servicing the cells. See, the blood vessels are servicing the cells, the nerve is servicing the cells, and the lymph vessels are servicing the cells, basically culturing the cells. And so the culturing potential of the body is lowered in that area. So it's like the tissues, the cells are more isolated, if that makes sense. So and if you think of it this way, the blood is the kitchen and the lymph is the toilet for all intents and purposes. And the nervous system is the electrical system. It's the light bulbs. It's also the control. The nervous system controls what's going on. So those areas, you might have pockets of numbness. You might have, you're going to have lower oxygen levels, lower nutrition levels. It's going to be harder for the acidosis to be drawn out of those tissues. So that's why those areas are considered pockets of weakness, because they're just not as well serviced by the body.
Andy, did you try the Zoom at the top of the screen? Yeah, right up. You just clicked out.
I can go back to the screen share. Sorry about that. But you say what about the Zoom in the top?
Yeah, well, go back to the screen share.
Okay.
And there's a Zoom option at the top of the screen.
Left.
Your cursor was almost over it. Maybe you don't see it though. Yeah, it was right over it.
Is like zoom as in to zoom in and get a closer look?
Yeah, but you apparently.
Am I just blind?
Yeah.
I don't see where I can.
It's right above my eye. That little picture on the left of my eye.
Okay.
It's right above it. It says there's a view and then an option for Zoom and then a second option for Zoom.
Like I see mute, stop video, participants, new share, pause.
Yeah, you don't see it apparently. You see what I'm saying, right,
Remote.
Trace?
Yeah, I can see it.
I have a button that says more, but when I
Yeah.
click on, you see what I'm seeing when I click more? Yeah, I don't see Zoom in here anywhere. Huh.
Yeah. Oh well.
Weird.
That's okay. We can still get by without it. I think.
We're gonna have to try to make some improvements apparently. But that would be the primary thing. Now, if we look here in the left eye, we've got heart right here. I don't know if you guys can read that. Boy, it really would be nice to zoom in. Oh, now I'm seeing something. Let me try this.
There you go. Right there. Yep. Yes.
Okay. Click off of that. Now I'm feeling kind of clumsy. Sorry about that, guys. But anyway, so we got the heart here. And in the eye here, see this little area here? That would also be something that we could look at. So when I zoom out, sometimes when you zoom out, it's almost a little easier. If we zoom way back, see if I zoom way back, that's a little too far. But see how that spot kind of jumps out that I was pointing to when I zoomed back? That's sitting right over the heart. So there could be a potential heart weakness over time. And then also over here, right in the thyroid, you see this little spot right here. Now I'll zoom back in. Now that I've shown how these spots kind of jump out, if you know what to look for. That's right over the thyroid. Now, if you look down here, I'm gonna zoom in again. So we have thyroid, and then see this PT, parathyroid. Now go back up here. See this acidosis right here right next to the pupil. There's a little white belt. See the white belt right here? This is the bowel wall of the GI tract. So there's acidosis inside the bowel wall right here, and it's created, if you can see, there's some congestion right here. That congestion's right over the parathyroid. And that's why the parathyroid weakness was with all the trabecular fibers being wavy like this. So this little bit I see there's these distinct pockets of acidosis, and they create problems in the organs that are drawn off that area. So if you think about it like this, the GI tract is sort of like the trunk of the tree, and all of the organs are the branches of the tree, and they're drawing nutrients off of they're like rooted into the GI tract, just like a tree would be. And so we eat food, earth, and they're rooted into the earth in the GI tract. Does that make sense? It's kind of interesting like that. So when you have these weaknesses in the GI tract, it affects the organs that are in those regions. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so there's an involvement here where there's a relationship between the acidosis in the GI tract and the congestion in the parathyroid. And then if I zoom back out, we can see out here, this is right over the thyroid. So you have thyroid and parathyroid. The thyroid is more of a genetic weakness. See here, it's not acidosis, it's a genetic weakness. So you see how there's a little bit of a difference. It's still an acidosis problem, but it's more like, because of the genetic weakness, it's susceptible to acidosis, where this is just congestion. This is more like, most likely like a lymph node is blocked right there. You know what I mean? It's not so much having to do with the actual layout of the cells. I hope I'm not being too confusing here. If anybody has any questions, by all means, ask any questions. But yeah, so I'm going to the main organs. You know, I'm looking at the heart, I'm looking at thyroid, parathyroid. I'm looking in the areas where we typically have struggle, you know, in terms of the humanity generally speaking. And for example, so if I come down here into the bottom of the eye, right here over kidney, this is a primary place to have a weakness. You know, most of us, almost all of us are struggling with kidney weaknesses and kidney acidosis. So you can see that there's clearly, these are called lacunas, when the trabecular fibers open up like that in all these areas. So there's some pretty strong lacunas right over the kidneys, which is why we're seeing so much congestion, generally speaking. So, but other than that, I mean, nice blue eyes. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not saying that, because every eye that you look at, there's going to have problems. I mean, it's just so, it's just that all of our bodies handle these things differently. So this is basically, and all this white, see how it's white, and then this is brown. The lymph fluid starts out clear when it's healthy. And that's why when you're healthy, if you have blue eyes and your lymph is healthy, your eyes will be very, very clear blue. But as the lymph fluid becomes agglomerated with acids, it turns white. And then if it gets more acids, it goes yellow, and then it goes orange, and then brown, and then black. And that goes from healthy to acute to subacute to chronic to degenerative. So this would be like subacute, pretty much right here. This is subacute to chronic, but it's chronic only in the smallest little pockets right there. I'll zoom in a little bit more. So see how there's aspects of this that's in a chronic state, and the rest of it's subacute. And this is all acute everywhere around here. So you have like a subacute congestion right here in the GI, and then this is just acute congestion in the parathyroid. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Perfect.
What does that say though about people with brown or hazel colored eyes? Do they have a lot more issues going on?
Well, in our school of thought, there's only two colors of eyes. There's brown and blue. That's it. So when you get a hazel eye, you're talking about sort of like what we're seeing in your eyes here. Your eyes, you consider hazel pretty much, right?
Yeah.
You know, because when you're up close, you can see the blue. See the blue in there, back in behind it? You actually have blue eyes. It's just that now in your case, you're talking more like pretty much subacute to chronic. Technically, we would call this chronic acidosis in the GI tract. And that is exactly why the heart attack. Straight up. Okay. Now, especially up here, up in the brain area up here, this is going to be like where this goes is, honey, where did I park the car syndrome. That's what Dr. Morse always says. But it's kind of like that. Later on in life, you're getting a little bit foggy because of the congestion. It's a hard to say because it is pretty blurry. So we can't say absolutely for sure. But there's definitely lung weakness. So one of the things I would ask is, do you ever notice with your lungs when you get up and work and stuff, do you feel like your lungs might be a little bit weak by any chance?
No, not weak, but sometimes out of breath.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder because there's a more of a chronic, pretty much the strongest chronic part of your GI is right here in the lung region. So where the lungs are drawing off and feeding off of the GI tract, they're going to be pulling toxicity off of that spot. See how it's like the lungs are rooted into sort of an unhealthy area. Does that make sense? So,
Yeah.
and that's in the ascending colon. So that's going to be on the right side as you're coming up towards the bottom of the rib cage, right in that area, under the bottom of your rib cage, right there on the right side. You might notice that there's pain there. If you eat bad food, when I say bad, if you eat acidic foods, that might be right.
Anything that's not fruit.
Anything that's not fruit. Yeah, base. That's what I want. I didn't want to go there, but you went there for me.
I knew where you were going. Like pizza?
Yeah, exactly. So like next time you eat pizza, see if you feel a little bit of pain right there, because that will be where you would get the most inflamed by the acidosis.
Okay.
So,
What about, okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
What about, like, for example, you can't really tell in this picture, but I can see like yellow flecks in my eyes.
Okay. So would you suspect it's like these areas? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
I'm not sure.
Because I mean, like this is kind of yellow here.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But see here, there's a fairly significant thyroid right here. And this is parathyroid and thyroid involvement. Now with that, I would ask, do you have like bone density problems in the family? Did mom possibly have sort of like an osteoporosis type issue or anything
Not
like
that
that?
I know of.
I'm just
I
kind of
mean,
curious.
I've got like a Polish Russian background on my father's side, so we all
Okay.
have big bones.
Okay. I was just curious. It just because I can't say 100% for sure because it's just so grainy, but the pituitary, the parathyroid right here is potentially compromised or could be compromised. This whole thyroid parathyroid. Now, with the thyroid parathyroid, typically depression it's characterized by depression. But again, I just can't say for very sure, but you're very spiritual,
Yep.
so spiritual people, they have the tools to overcome these things. You know what I mean? And so you're like, well, I feel okay, but you're overcoming things that maybe somebody else wouldn't. The average person would be a succumb to it.
Yeah, I'm the eternal optimist.
Yeah. And so by doing that, you might be overcoming a whole lot more than you think you are. And that if you pulled this acidosis out of the GI tract and got your thyroid and parathyroid detoxed, get your lungs detoxed, get all this detoxed, all of a sudden you go way past cloud nine. With the spirituality that you're carrying, if you lift the acidosis out of the GI tract and pull all this acid out of the tissues, boy, man, we might really miss you.
Well, I'll tell you what, my eyes were predominantly that central ring color outside of the pupil when I was younger. And as I've gotten older, it's become this. It used to be more of a darker brown, and now it's
really?
Yeah, a hazel.
This ring around the pupil used to be darker when you were younger?
It used to be all my entire eye color.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
So did you improve your diet over the years or I mean, what would you think? Because normally it goes the other way, honestly. You start out with blue eyes. That's why you get your baby blues, right? You talk about your baby blues.
Right.
Babies are, their eyes, they'll be born with blue eyes or brown. It's whether which one you have, natural brown or blue. But if you have naturally blue eyes, you'll be born with blue eyes, and then they'll start changing colors. And within a week or two, you know what I mean? And then thereafter, they just get darker and darker as you go, because most people do get more acids.
I had dark brown eyes when I was younger, and as I got older, it turned to this. And I think more so as I became more spiritually awakened.
Yeah. Well,
it started clearing up more.
Bear in mind, positive emotion is alkaline. Negative emotion is acidic. So you can detox literally by having joyful, happy, loving thoughts. So, it's amazing that that's the case, but it really is the case. So very likely is, and you probably improved your diet more recently, I would imagine.
Yes.
The heart attack and things like that. but you have very distinctively blue eyes. You can see the pockets of blue here. The other thing too is, if you kind of, I'm going to zoom back. I'll zoom out and we'll see if we can see. There's a bit of a ring. See the ring around the outside of the iris here?
Yes.
That's that thyroid involvement, which means that your skin is down a little bit. Not, I've seen far, far worse, but you're definitely, your skin is suppressed. I would question, you're either probably not sweating at all or you're sweating way too much. Can you speak to that, or how do you feel about the way you're sweating?
I probably sweat more than most people.
I was wondering if, because acids are stimulants. And
Mhm.
so you, at first you'll have a hyper condition. You'll sweat way too much. And then pretty soon you won't sweat at all because it goes from hyper to hypo. And so that's why I was wondering if you were in a hyper state, because you're on a detox journey. You're already heading towards detox. So you're kind of on the mend, you know?
Mhm.
And when you're on the mend, you go from hypo to hyper. Then you come back to homeostasis.
Okay.
So you're somewhere between homeostasis and hyper, you know? So
So anyone watching right now, if they have that circle on the outside of their iris, that this is what that would indicate, correct?
yeah, if they have a distinct, see, yours is not distinct, and that's why I suspected it might be hyper.
Okay.
If you have a really distinct ring around the outside of your iris, I can almost guarantee you have depression. You're going to struggle with depression. You're going to struggle with self-confidence. You're going to be shy. You're going to be sad a lot. It's going to be a struggle. You're going to be totally suppressed. And it's because the thyroid is down. When the thyroids and parathyroids go down, here comes the depression.
But that can all be changed with diet.
Absolutely. You can fix all of this up. That's the beauty of fruit. Fruit detox. It takes care of all of that. So
You also said that you can detox by having loving, joyful thoughts. So I can have a pizza and think loving, joyful thoughts, right?
yeah, but you're going to have extremely loving and joyful thoughts. So
I really love this pizza.
yeah. If you really love the pizza, it might actually work. But I would hold off on the pepperoni though, at least.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe some fruit on there, something like pineapple or
Yeah,
something.
if you could do that's an interesting idea. Do a fruit pizza. Then now you really be kicking butt if you can pull
Right.
that off.
Okay.
So I pulled up now the left eye. So we've got the right eye over here and the left eye. Now, this is interesting. It could be just the camera, but do you see how there's a lot more blue in the right eye than the left eye?
Yeah.
Can everybody see that? So there's not as much blue. There's a little bit of blue here and a little here. So this indicates to me, if it's not the camera and the lighting, it would indicate that the left side, your left kidney, is down more than the right kidney. So the left side of your body has more acidosis than the right side. I can almost guarantee it. Can you speak to that? Do you feel like you have more trouble on the left?
Well, it's interesting because the left side in QHHT is a past life. Right side is current life. And that goes for anyone, if you stub your toe on your right-hand side of your body, there's something in your current life. If you did it on your left-hand side, which I did recently, there's something going on in your past life. So that would be addressing my past life somewhere where I probably did have
a sense of like detox sense, right? Like the past life as being kind of congested. That's a very interesting concept. I've never considered that before, but
Yep.
Wonder what that could mean. I mean, it's toxic, right? We're talking about toxicity here.
Right.
And but we're also talking about weakness. So it could be, if we look at the kidney here, you see how the kidney, I'm going to zoom in a little so everybody can see it better. See how the kidney is not at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock dead straight down is your left leg.
Okay.
The kidneys and adrenals are always just inside of 6 o'clock, pointing toward your nose. So if you look in your eyes, it's kind of like this in someone's eyes.
Okay.
Pupil towards like that. So if we go back to your picture here, see how I'm drawing right here. This is the kidney area.
Gotcha.
And so you definitely have a kidney weakness right there, right off the bat. And here's the adrenals, kidneys and adrenals.
My sister had kidney issues. She was on dialysis. Yeah.
Okay. So see, now when I zoom back, it starts to be a little bit more prominent. You can see it a little better. See that?
Right. Right.
So that's an issue there. Now let's go to the other eye and see how that kidney looks. And that's on this side, slightly inside. And you can see that definitely there's involvement in both of them. But far more blue in the right eye. And so, but then you have some concentrations over here too. The thyroid weakness is definitely very prominent. I mean, I got to say, I'm surprised you're not feeling certain degrees of depression. Were you depressed early on in life?
Nope.
Huh.
No.
Interesting. Yeah. Very spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Always have been.
that's just, I mean, because every time I'm dealing with spiritual people, they overcome, you know what I mean? You'll just see
Yeah,
that
apparently.
they just literally overcome what's in their path, which is
So
awesome, right?
there was something on the other eye around the 5 o'clock that I noticed. What would that be? Yeah,
Oops.
5 o'clock. Oh,
Sorry. I keep trying to scroll
yeah.
to zoom and scroll doesn't
Looks like
zoom.
there's something there at the 5 o'clock, like a line, like a number 1 almost.
Right here.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we're talking pelvis. It's either pelvis or old lefty. Hate to put it right out there on the open internet, but that's what it is, right? So
Okay.
it's right in that area. It could be. Now this is that's not a laughing matter in the sense that that's a vulnerability both for males and females, the ovaries and the testes, because you're talking about estrogen and testosterone are both acids. They're the only acid hormones in the body. Everything else is alkaline, to my knowledge. All the other hormones and steroids are alkaline, the cholesterols. So it's a vulnerability for us. You know, that's an area that we commonly see problems. That's why prostate cancer for males, you know, it's very, very common. It's a hot part of the body. So it could be, or it could just be the pelvis right there between where the, you know, where your leg joins your pelvis. So you might feel,
I get cramps there.
yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
so that's what it is. So definitely. So, but see just to the left, see the congestion there though?
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, there's a relationship. Probably there's a lymph node. It could be right. Well, actually the lymph node would be out here more towards.
Okay, what side is that? Would the lymph nodes
Yeah.
be? Because I had some nodes removed from cancer
Oh, really? In
in
the
the
pelvis
groin area. Yeah,
groin area?
yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, now this is important. This is something I want to tell everybody. Don't remove stuff. Don't remove lymph nodes,
Well,
especially.
this was back in 2007. I didn't know anything
I know you
that.
didn't. And that's
But
what
then again, you know, they did this dye test that they found that the cancer had spread into my groin and underneath my arm, so they had to remove those glands.
from their point of view, they have to remove it because they don't have a remedy.
Mhm.
You know, so they just see it as getting worse and worse and worse. Better to just remove it.
Right.
But with detox, you can pull all these acids out. And that's why we will go to great extent to try to save the tissue. We don't want to, you know, we only very rarely do we see an actual need to remove things. If you take on a strong detox protocol, you can detox all the lymph nodes, detox the lymph system, pull all this acid agglomeration out of the tissues. Bear in mind, all of this congestion that we're seeing in the eye is in an oily fluid. It's a lipid fluid. The lymph system is a lipid cholesterol fluid. And so what we're seeing is we're seeing basically burnt fat. That's what it is. And
Wow.
so, and the reason that the acids are in the fat is because the body is taking the acid and wrapping it in fat to protect the tissue. So you're just seeing kind of hot, dirty fat. And that's why the fruit is so essential, because the fruit's bicarbonate and alkaline. And what it does is it neutralizes the acidosis so that the body can safely pull the acids out of the fat and pee it out. And that's what the kidneys are doing. The kidneys are cleaning the fat. And so unless you put bicarbonates in, there's no way for the body to neutralize the acidosis. So it just stores it. It stores it up in your lipids, all the lipids and the oils and the cholesterols. It pretty much uses all the fats and oils of the body to protect you. And so what's interesting is the lymph system, the lipid lymph fluid is, think about it when you're out in the cold and you get a drippy, runny nose and it just dripping clear fluid. That's when lymph is healthy, it's very fluidy. But as it gets burnt like this, it gets stiff, it hardens. And so not only is it burnt, but it's hard, it hardens. Like that's why you get hardened cysts. and things like that. So when you go to the fruit, it reverses that process. So as it was getting hotter, it was getting stiffer and stiffer and harder. And then as it loosens the lymph. So it relaxes the lymph, if that makes sense. So the lymph fluid will, what I would call de-agglomerate. As your acidosis is increasing, the lymph fluids are agglomerating and becoming stiffer and harder. That's why you get really stiff. When you're acidic, you're like, ow, ouch, ouch. Everything hurts, you know? It's just a lot of pain, a lot of stiffness. But when you go to the fruit, everything loosens up. You start to be able to move again. It's because that fatty fluid is relaxing and letting go. It's literally letting go, relaxing and letting go of all that acidosis. But it requires the bicarbonate chemistry. This is a chemical pH problem. And that's why, you know, all the therapies and stuff don't work really, because they'll give you temporary relief, but they're not changing your pH. And it's not blood pH. That's a big problem. You'll go get your pH tested, you know, they'll test urine and test the blood. Well, blood's always alkaline. So it's not telling you anything about how acidic the lymph system is. And the lymphs, it's like going into the kitchen and saying, yeah, the kitchen's clean, looks good, but your toilet's not flushing and it's overflowed and there's sewage all over in your bathroom, and everybody's still using the bathroom. So sewage is getting walked all down the hall, and there's sewage all over the house. It's all up on the walls. It's everywhere. Okay. But you're sitting there cleaning the kitchen and the kitchen's all clean. And then the doctor goes, yeah, the kitchen looks clean. Everything's good to go. You're set. Go ahead. You're good to go. It's like, did you look in the bathroom? You know? So check the pH of the bathroom. See what the pH of the bathroom looks like. That's where all of man's problem is. When the toilet stops flushing and the sewage backs up, all of the cells just get burnt by sewage acidosis. But why did the toilet stop flushing? That's the kidneys. When the kidneys go down, everything backs up. So, and why did the kidneys go down? Because they got burnt by acids. And that scarring, that inflammation closes them off. They get blocked off and you're no longer filtering the fat. So the flow of fat to the kidneys just stops. And that's why the tumors and like people that are excessively overweight, it's just the body putting acids into the fat lipids, desperately trying to keep the acids safe away from your bones and your blood and all your alkaline tissue. So some people's body will use fat as a way to store the acids. Another body will use tumors as a way to store the acids. Another body will not try to store the acids. It'll try to neutralize the acids by releasing calcium from the bones and connective tissue. So, because calcium's alkaline. So your body just starts giving up connective tissue. And that's where you're at, Tracy. Your body is going to be more prone to give up because of the parathyroid and thyroid weakness. You're more likely to lose bone density. That's the nature. That's everyone's body has a unique strategy. And some people's bodies will use a little of each. They'll get a little bit fat. They'll get a whole bunch of cholesterol. They'll have edema. They'll have, you know what I mean? Their body, they're losing bone density. They're kind of having all of the problems all at once. Whereas somebody else's body will just exclusively lose bone density. That's all they do is lose bone density. Everything else looks perfect on them. They're just absolutely perfect, but they're losing bone density. Whereas another person, they'll have nothing but edema, just completely full of edema. And the edema is just the body holding on to water to dilute the acidosis. Okay. So you could have cholesterol plaquing because cholesterol is alkaline. So their body's saying, hey, let me plaque cholesterol I'll plaque cholesterol in the tissues so that the tissues don't get burned by acids. So they're using cholesterol as a strategy. See what I'm saying? And then another person, their body, they get malabsorbed. So the intestinal wall, inside of the intestinal wall is all agglomerated with acids. And then so the food can't get in. And so they starve to death because their body says, look, I am so tired of this acid food coming in that I'm just going to go in one end and out the other. Because if it comes in, I'm going to die. I can't take any more acids. And so they literally just starve to death. So you have one person, 400 pounds, and he's got acidosis. And the other person over here, they're skin and bones, and they've got acidosis. So that's why it's so confusing, because You take all those diseases, millions and millions and millions of fancy names to confuse the heck out of everybody, and it's all just acidosis.
Mhm.
You know, most babies are born with blue eyes. Is that because they were feeding off of their mother?
That's a really good question. Basically, now Dr. Morse has spoken to this, and he also says it's a little bit interesting because you would think that the baby would be born with the basically looking like eyes of mom, you know, because you get your mom's lymph fluid. So you would expect that the eyes would look like that. They come out blue, but as soon as you cut the umbilical cord, the eyes start to register the condition of the cells. So I don't know why that would be the case, but it's like they're brand new, and then as soon as you cut the umbilical cord, it's like the nervous system starts to register the condition of the cells.
Mhm.
But I don't understand why it wouldn't register in the womb. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's interesting. I don't know. I honestly can't answer why they would be so clear blue and then turn like that. Because to me, logically, I would, like I say, you know. So that's a really good question. We don't exactly have the answer for it.
Tracy, do you have any more questions about your eye or
Um,
eyes?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the connective tissue. Would that include skin?
Absolutely.
Okay, because
Yep. Yep. One thing I would ask is, does your mom have a lot of wrinkles? I mean, I don't mean to be rude, but it's what it is. A lot of times you'll see the skin, when the skin goes down and gets really dehydrated with acids, you're going to see, because when the thyroid goes down, you stop sweating ultimately. You'll sweat too much at first because acids are stimulants. So what happens is, as the acids pool in the thyroid, it'll overstimulate it and you'll have hyperthyroid and you'll be sweating like crazy all the time. But then that can only go on so long. You can't just keep stimulating something forever. You know, eventually it crashes. So what'll happen is at first you'll go hyper. You'll be bouncing between normal and hyper and normal and hyper. And then pretty soon you're hyper all the time, just hyper, 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 hyper. And then it's hyper, hypo, hyper, hypo, hyper, hypo. And then it's just hypo. Does that make sense? So when it goes hypo and you stop sweating, the skin gets really acidified, and because when you sweat, you're getting the acids out. And when it gets acidified, it dehydrates because acids are hot. And so you get very, very dehydrated, lots and lots of wrinkles. If you have lots and lots of wrinkles and loose skin, that's a thyroid, parathyroid weakness.
I spent about a year exposed to toxic mold, and from June of 2017 to July of 18 to 19. So I've only been out of that situation for, let's see, 5 months. Prior to that, I felt like my health was really good. Like for that whole year, I didn't know what was going on. I really thought I was dying slowly. I've been in menopause already, so I was just contributing it to all that, like just extreme menopause symptoms. But it got to the point where it was really bad. Like I was brain fogged. My skin was a wreck. I mean, I have a million pictures of my skin and all the challenges, and I still deal with it, but it's gotten 90% better from what it was. But it left me in this state of, I'm wondering if that's where all this connective tissue stuff is coming in, because I'm still battling the mold. I'm still trying to get it out of my subcutaneous tissue. I hadn't been able to sweat because when I would sweat, it would create so much irritation. So I've just recently been able to go back to like working out. I do an infrared sauna a few times a week to try to sweat.
Now, I would recommend not the infrared, but go to a steam sauna.
Okay.
If you can, use the steam option.
Okay.
I would stay away from infrared. Infrared is radiation, and radiation is acidic.
Ah.
So it's not, it's a little bit counterproductive to your purpose.
Yeah, that was recommended to me by my biofeedback therapist.
Sauna is great, but
infrared. So she was like, just get one of those blankets, the infrared sauna blankets, and get in that, which I do sweat. I mean, there's pooling sweat when I get out of it, but.
Which is good. That is good. That is good. That is helping. I mean, well, Dr. Morse just says to avoid the infrared. I wonder if you're probably still making, you're probably making positive ground. Like if your thyroid was so down that you're under the infrared and you're still not sweating, I would say no.
Okay.
But if you're sweating good, you're probably making positive ground there. I would say so. Yeah. Even though we don't really recommend it, I suspect you're making positive ground.
Yeah, that's why I kind of switched to exercising now, since I can get more involved in that now that my skin is clear and I'm able to sweat more without it being so
Now,
irritating.
exercise is great. The only thing with exercise is you are generating lactic acids and carbonic acids. So if your kidneys are down, we don't really recommend really a lot of exercise, because their problem is not an exercise problem. Their problem is a chemical pH problem. See what I'm saying? There's a misunderstanding there. People think, well, I just need to exercise more to lose weight and get feeling good. It's like, not necessarily. If your kidneys are down, you don't really want to be beating the pavement, going and working out and generating a whole lot of carbonic and lactic acids with nowhere to go, especially if you're not sweating. What you need to do is you need to ingest bicarbonate chemistry and neutralize the acidosis to cool off the kidneys and start expectorating the acids on a chemical level. See what I'm saying? It's not so much an activity problem.
Okay.
And so what you want to focus on is those super berries. You want to get on super berries and concentrated super fruits, where you're getting what's that again?
I've been doing it for a week and I feel amazing.
Good deal. How about detox symptoms? Are you getting into any detox symptoms?
A little bit of a headache here and there. Like sometimes I'll just get like a really strong pain in my head, and it goes away. I'll drink a lot more water. But for the short time that I've been doing it, I've noticed my sleep is so much better. Like I don't move the entire night, and it's like I just go to sleep and I wake up and I'm like, oh wow, I can't believe it.
Hey, you know what? That's an interesting thing you just brought up. Look here on the picture here. See where I've got the cursor? Pineal gland. And right next to it's pituitary. That's why the sleep was thrown off. You had acidosis right here. Were you not sleeping, just active all night?
I would sleep, but I would just wake up and go right back to sleep a lot of
okay. And because see, when this is acids, you have acidosis pooling in the pineal right here, which would, like I say, acids are stimulants. So it could be overstimulating, or it could be crashed, but this doesn't look crashed. That's why I was thinking stimulated. Just you're at a kind of an acute level of acidosis in the pineal to where it would be overstimulated, I would suspect. So that's very interesting, you know, that you bring up the headaches and stuff, because if you look here in your eye, this is the right eye. Let me zoom back out. You know, right here in the brain is a fair bit of congestion. You know, you look around the eye, this is one of the prominent areas. You've got a few prominent areas, but one of the main prominent areas, sure enough, right there in the brain. So that totally makes sense. There is this genetic weakness right here. See this band coming across here? That is also very interesting. Let's zoom into the map. I mean, it's lung, but it's sort of high in the lung, kind of shoulder. So if you were thinking on the right side, kind of shoulder, upper lung, any chance you feel anything up in this area right here?
Yeah, right around my collarbone. My
Yeah,
collarbone.
yeah, right around the collarbone. A weakness. It's like if you go out jogging, running, if you really get work in your lungs, I'll bet you anything you feel it right here. Yep.
And I wonder if that has something to do with the mold, because the mold was in the ventilation system, so I was breathing it in for a year.
Yeah, it's, you know, mold is all around us all the time. It's not good to expose yourself, but the fact that you were susceptible to it has to be
very, very high.
Yeah.
Compared to the outdoor mold count, was like, say the outdoor mold count is like 450 per square inch. Talking like in the 5,000-6,000 range.
Okay.
So it was quite a bit higher.
Yeah. Looking right here, see the thyroid area? We were looking at your other eye earlier. Now here in the right eye, look at this significant parathyroid. See the PT right here? A very significant parathyroid and thyroid involvement right here. So we're back to the good old thyroid, parathyroid. That's definitely where your struggle is, no question. And that's why the wavy trabecular fibers. So it's all about connective tissue weakness, skin weakness. You're going to have bone density issue type stuff, probably osteoporosis running in the family. Is that, did I ask you that already?
Yeah, my grandmother did, but
yeah. Yeah.
I seem to favor my dad's side more when it comes to my genetics, like my physical genetics. And so that is kind of a mystery.
What about the tailbone, right at the base of your back at the tailbone?
Yeah, where those epidurals go in. Yeah.
Because you got a pretty good little weakness right there. See that?
And that's probably from my epidurals when I had childbirth, because that was a very bad experience for me. My
Yeah.
second one, it was a very bad experience. I was starting to pass out and they shoved it in and my blood pressure dropped. I was actually like, I think I had like a near death experience, because I remember like leaving my body and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to meet my child. And my blood pressure just bottomed out. So yeah, and that's ever since then, it's been a weakness area.
I was just looking at this other map just to be sure, because sometimes you notice how I have the other map. Sometimes you see a little bit of conflict in the maps, and it's nice to reference both of them, although I like this other map better, generally speaking. But yeah, so what I see in your eyes is that you would detox quickly, okay? Unfortunately, Gregg's got a little bit more of a struggle on his detox. From what in my experience and what I've known is that your body should be able to really kick in and get ripping. Gregg will notice things immediately as well, because with the GI tract, the darkness in the GI, that's the main thing, is when your GI starts activating, Gregg, whoa, baby, the whole world's just going to kick in big time. The interesting thing is it's the same remedy no matter how you slice it. Fruits, superfruits, you can get into herbs. I love medicinal herbs, but when you get into the super berries, I really do believe that's where the remedy is ultimately. So.
Okay, the things I noticed on, since I started doing the fruit diet was initially my blood sugar actually went up and then it dropped big time down to 87, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Also, my weight dropped. I lost 7 pounds.
You've already
Doing
lost
that.
7 pounds?
Yep. And my blood sugar, or my blood pressure dropped from 148 over 102 to 137 over 93.
Wow.
So it dropped 11 points on the high end and 9 points on the low end. It's still elevated, but heading in the right direction.
So that's amazing.
Look at that. Awesome. Yeah, I guess I kind of want to make a little bit of a correction. It's not that not that one body's gonna go faster than the other. It's more like, from what I can see, it's like generally you'll detox fairly quickly because the GI can make a lot of progress fast, But the issue is these darker spots. You've got some pretty dark spots that are going to take a little, and especially with the lymph node removals and things,
Mm-hmm.
that's where you're going to need to get a little bit more aggressive. Tracy can kind of play around. She can have more pizzas, but
there's a question in the chat room that's really appropriate for right now. And everyone that's in the chat room, I'm copying and pasting down your questions. As a matter of fact, I'm doing it as I'm speaking right now. But here's a question from Andrea Jordan. What is the best way to get a picture of my eyes?
Well, I just use my cell phone on most cases, so now I've got the Note 10. I don't know what phone you have, but the best thing to do is to turn the flash on and see how Gregg centered the flash right in the pupil. That's what you want to do. You want to make sure the flash pops right in the middle of the pupil so that it doesn't flash over the iris. And that's the main thing. And you just have to take a bunch of pictures, just sit and play with it. It's nice to have somebody open, if you open your eye like this and somebody helps you, it's nice. It's hard to do by yourself. It is not easy to get your own picture. So have somebody help you and just keep trying over and over again. Make sure that the flash is, or that there's no reflections over the iris so that we are able to see the entire iris. And you just try, that's pretty much.
How far away should you hold your phone?
I have the best luck with my phone, the way it focuses at about 4 inches, but every phone's different. Some of them focus better than others.
So Andy, if I could have you retest my eyes like in 3 months after doing Fruitarian and see what the difference is.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Here's another thing in your eye. You see these little spots and stuff over here?
Yeah.
This here is also an area that would be vulnerable as well. And we're talking upper back. Upper back, scapula. We're back to the scapulas again. You notice that?
Everything's in my
So
upper back.
this
Yeah.
would be like in between your scapulas in the upper back.
Yep.
Yeah, upper back, lung, you know, the upper back, lung. You notice how we were noticing the problems were on the front and the upper part of the lungs and the upper back, you know, so like all around, like underneath your shoulders and around the back. Yeah, that's where you're going to notice a lot of stuff. Yeah.
I was a hairstylist for 20 years. So that part of my muscular structure was always so in tune. And then when I stopped about 14 years ago, I changed gears, and then I had to actually go through physical therapy because those muscles would seize up completely from it's like when you are a runner and then all of a sudden you just decide one day to give up running and you get the muscle cramping and everything like that. So it's been a weak spot for me ever since. I noticed that now that I'm working out again, I feel like it's strengthening more. But it's ever since I stopped that side of my career, it's been a challenge. I mean, I feel like all my stress goes there.
You know, I was just thinking of the mold issue that you were dealing with, and a lot of times that's a sugar metabolism thing. Even though you had the exposure, if your sugar metabolism is down, then you'll have more of a likelihood of fermentation. And so we're going to look at your pancreas and see if we can identify a weakness here. And it does look like it is basically right here. You can see there's a little bit of prolapsing in the bowel, and then there's complete agglomeration in the pancreas right here. So notice when I zoom back out, you kind of get, sometimes it's really nice to just get back away. There's a distinctive area here of congestion. So, you know, there could be a pancreatic weakness there, that you're not metabolizing sugars super well to where you would be vulnerable to molds and fungus type things, you know, which also leads to uric acid crystals from that sort of thing. So one of the questions I would ask is how is your feet? Do you have any neuropathy or numbness in your feet?
Yes, I have problems with my right foot. And what I've noticed over the last year is that when I eat sugar, I will wake up the next day and my foot's hurting, my right side, my heel, sometimes the left, but mostly the right foot. But if I cut out all sugar, my foot stops hurting.
Look at this right here. See the weakness in your right foot? Boom. There it is. And so because and remember, this is a lacuna. So this is not acidosis. This is the tissue weakness. Remember I was talking about the lymph vessels and the blood vessels and the nerve and everything, the nerve penetration and all that into the tissues. So what it means is when the acid crystals, the uric crystals coming from the fungus, it's a heavy acid and it settles in your feet. And because your feet aren't able to drain very good, they're susceptible to that uric acid crystals. So what you want to do is you want to avoid all sugars except for fructose.
Okay.
You're totally fine with fructose because fructose passes right through the cell wall, straight into the cells, and does not spike blood sugar. And so therefore it starves out the funguses and candidas, you know, because the candida wants the sugar too, but your cells are way big, dominant, powerful, right? So your cells get to the sugar first, but all the other sugars require insulin to pass the cell wall. So it spikes the blood sugar and it feeds the candida in the meantime. Once the cell's open, okay, fine, the sugar comes, but there's a period of time where the candida gets to feed. See what I mean? Whereas with the fructose sugar, it just boom, right straight into the cells. So it starves out the candida. And not only that, the candida would prefer more of an acidic environment, generally speaking. So you've changed the pH and you're not feeding it anymore. So that's how you can deal with all of that.
Well, and just doing the fruit alone, I don't have sugar cravings. I mean, I don't want anything sweet because the fruit is so satisfying that I have no cravings for the other sugary foods that I used to want. And it's so satisfying. I don't know. It's crazy. I do kind of miss vegetables because I was such a vegetarian. I mean, vegetables were my life, but after just 1 week with the way I feel and the way my body's responding, like I'm staying on this journey until, you know,
it'll just get better and better all the way. And people ask, well, how long should I do it? And I say, how good do you want to feel?
Exactly.
That's all. It's the only thing there is to it. Like if you're satisfied, then do what you want to do. But if you want to just get better and better and better and better, and you just feel better and better and better and better, you just keep feeling better. So look here in your eye here, though. This is kind of
risk of like pancreatic issues or anything like that with all the fruit sugars.
no, not at all, because the only reason, let's go back to the kidney failure, okay? When the kidney fails and the acids start backing up, they back up all the way and overwhelm the lymph nodes and back up into the interstitial fluids. The interstitial fluids are around all cells in the entire body. So let's think about your pancreatic cells. So when your kidneys are inflamed and you're getting acidic, the interstitial fluids around your pancreas is what's being compromised. So the pancreatic weakness has more to do with acidosis than the sugar, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So, and fructose sugar is, like I say, fructose sugar is very alkaline. So it's going to detox the kidneys and regenerate the kidneys. And so it actually revives the pancreas.
Okay.
So the pancreatic weakness for people, it's not a sugar problem, it's an acidosis problem. Even though the pancreas is responsible for helping to control and facilitate sugar, it's not the sugar that damaged the pancreas. See what I'm saying? It's acidosis that damaged the pancreas. So fruit's highly alkaline. So fruit will heal the pancreas. And because fruit doesn't require insulin from the pancreas, it gives the beta cells a break. It gives the pancreas a rest. So that when you're eating fruit, the pancreas is resting and getting detoxed. So, and everybody will say that the fruit sugar and all that, but it's not, the sugar's not the problem. It was acidosis. It was you want to wipe out your pancreas, eat a lot of meat, eat a lot of dairy, eat a lot of protein, eat a lot of nuts and grains and things like that. That'll wipe out your pancreas. But let's look at this though, real quick. This is very interesting. So inside of the bowel wall here, see this little belt that I always talk about here? This is the bowel wall. So inside of the GI tract here, right here just before you hit the appendix in the cecum. Have you had any appendix problems?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, good. I mean, I wouldn't have expected it. It's not a dark spot. It's not bad. I was just curious. But there is acidosis right here. And look at that. Look how the weakness in the feet and the numbness and neuropathy. See how everything stems from the GI tract? Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
The body is rooted into the GI tract and drawing nutrients off of it. All the organs are just rooted right in. That's why if you have transverse colon issue, this is the transverse colon right here. If you have transverse colon prolapsing, which you do have a prolapsing transverse colon, by the way.
What's that?
Whenever you have a transverse prolapsing colon, you always have pituitary and pineal involvements and brain. All this brain problem, all the headaches, everything you're having, it's because of the prolapsed transverse colon. Because the brain is all tying off and drawn off of that part of the GI tract. Isn't that amazing? The human body is so fantastically amazing. It's just incomprehensible how it could all be connected and tied in the way it is.
It is. So I was told back in 2014, I think, that I had a hernia. Is there any way you can look at that?
Okay, remember parathyroid, connective tissue weaknesses. That's why you're having the herniations.
But I don't think I do.
But guess what? That's what I was kind of getting at here. That's why also this is an opening in the tissues. That can actually be, in some cases, sometimes stitched up and sewn back up and closed. You might want to consider it. I don't know. Don't have to. If for any reason you've got vision impairment in the left eye, do you have any vision impairment?
No, none at all.
And oftentimes you won't, and if you don't worry about it. Not a problem. But if you ever did, like down the road, you know what? Actually, I suspect on the fruit, you see all these trabecular fibers will start to straighten out as you detox. And the herniation, this is exactly why the herniation. Look at that. It's the parathyroid connective tissue weakness, and that's why the connective tissue weakness. Isn't it interesting? It all ties together. So it'll all strengthen. As you go on the fruits and berries, you're turning it all around, and you'll just get stronger and stronger and stronger and feeling better and better and better every single day. Every day you get a little bit better.
So that spot could actually start to diminish?
Yes. And did it not get bigger as you've aged?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yep.
The last
Yep.
decade, 15 years. Yeah,
Yep.
sure.
I can't guarantee that it'll get smaller, but it will stop getting bigger.
Mhm.
And like I say, you might explore a little bit of a cosmetic surgery there. It might not even be all that expensive. I don't know. But I wouldn't worry about it if it's not bothering your vision. I wouldn't worry about it at all. But you know, I mean, if it ever does, you know, I did some research on that. It's a possibility. So,
Okay.
but it is definitely your parathyroid that's causing that. And yeah, you want to reverse that, and you totally can. So,
I'm gonna.
So what are those charts called? We have people in the chat room wanting to know about these charts.
just if you just Google iridology charts, you get all kinds of charts. Now, I recommend Bernard Jensen. If you look here on this chart, you can just see Jensen right on, kind of sticking out on the side here because it's been cropped. But this was done by Bernard Jensen, and he did great research. He really brought the science along. This one over here is a little bit more for the fun of it, but it does seem to be accurate. It's kind of neat the way they've done it, you know? They've made it, it's a really neat chart, and it's effective. It's basically accurate as far as I can tell.
Okay, I have another one. How can we send you a pic of our eye, and what is the cost of a reading?
If you want to send it on Facebook, go ahead and find me on Facebook right now. Is probably the best way to meet. I don't
Put a
have
link. I already put a link of your Facebook on
Okay, that's
the
great.
chat.
Okay, so just contact me there, and we'll work out an arrangement.
Here's another one. My son was born with brownish eyes, but a pie cutout of white/light blue in the 7 to 8 o'clock spot on the left eye. What does that mean?
So it's pretty much brown except for in that one area it's blue, huh?
Yeah, a whitish blue, light blue area, like a pie cutout.
Yeah, I'd have to see the eyes to say for sure, but most likely he has blue eyes. And if his eye is as brown as it sounds like it might be, he's needing a detox big time. But you know, that's just totally without having more specifics. That's just a rough guess.
Right. Yeah. Geraldine is asking if I have white squiggles completely around the outer part of my iris, going around the pupil, almost like a vortex. What could that be? White squiggles completely around the outer part of her iris. I guess you need a picture, huh?
Trying to think if it ring any bells. Yeah, that one didn't ring any bells per se. If you know what we ought to do on our next show, if you'll invite me back.
Of course.
We could maybe we should practice and set it up to where people right now could be sending us in pictures. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That would be kind of fun, wouldn't it?
All right. Sure.
I'd hate to get too clumsy with the computer at this, you know, right now, but maybe for next week well, I won't be, I'm
No,
gonna be out
next
of
week.
the country.
Yeah.
Maybe like the first week of March.
Yeah, we'll make arrangements for sometime in March, probably early March.
Yeah, let's do it. And we'll do some practice and see if we can set up a show where we can, in the same way that we answer live questions, we can do some live readings.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Here's one from Imelda. I have a blue outer ring on both eyes.
Yeah, that's going to be a thyroid weakness, thyroid, parathyroid for sure. I would ask that person if they're struggling with depression.
Somebody's asking here, what if your thyroid was removed?
Well, as I was saying before, once you have a grasp of detox, you would not want to remove anything. You would do everything you could to detox it and save it. But once it's been removed, what's amazing is you can still regenerate these tissues. Now, Dr. Morse has had a situation where the thyroid was removed and must have been some of the stem cells left over, completely regrew the thyroid.
Wow.
So it's kind of like the liver. It'll regenerate like crazy. So what I would say is go very, very strictly. If you want to regenerate your thyroid after having it being removed, you would have to be very strict on the fruits, strictly on the berries, strictly on the fruits. And try to go as close to 100% as possible and cut the proteins out. 100% no protein. You don't need protein. You need amino acids. And fruit is loaded with amino acids. So don't worry about protein. Just forget about that and go high on the fruits and do what you can to regenerate that thyroid. Now, somebody like that, if they want to get real serious about generating that thyroid, I would consider thyroid glandulars. So, but I would first detox, because you don't lose your thyroid unless the kidneys are down. So that person most likely has kidney problems and needs to get the kidneys detoxing, get the detox rolling, and then go to go to the glandulars.
Is that herbal?
The glandulars are, it's actually desiccated thyroid gland from it's bovine. And
Oh,
it's the only thing you'll hear me ever talk about. It's pure protein, concentrated protein, but it's the right kind of protein that he needs to regenerate, or she. See what I'm saying? So I don't normally go there, and I don't normally go to the meats or anything like that, but for a very specific purpose, yes, we can go for that.
mhm.
That's all the questions I have from the chat room and myself about the iridology charts. Do you have any more, Trace?
No, I'm just anxious to see the changes after, maybe I'm gonna take pictures on my own, like at 1 month in, and then,
Right.
kind of do the progression, but I'll really monitor this spot, and
Mm-hmm.
it kind of gives me something to work toward. It really kind of put things in perspective. So,
Isn't that nice? Now you have it's like a window into your, it's like, it's just amazing. It's the most powerful soft tissue analysis that we know of. And it really helps you to understand what's going on in your body, so that you don't, like the pain you were having in your back, you
mhm.
might be thinking, I need to go to a chiropractor. No, it's acidosis. You just need to get the acids out.
So you don't think that exercise helps to kind of move those?
It will, in your case. Yeah. Oh, no. Exercise is great to move the lymph. I would absolutely exercise for sure. Plenty of exercise.
Okay.
But if your kidneys are down and you are, like, say you have a lot of edema and you're, a lot of excess weight and things like that, to where it's very obvious that your kidneys are down. Your kidneys are functioning fairly well. I don't know exactly what percentage, but they're not down. They're like probably at 50% maybe. Somewhere in there. They could be 30%. It's hard to say, or maybe even 60%. But so you'd be okay to exercise. But if somebody's kidneys are flat down, say 5% or less, or even at 1 or 2%, exercise is not going to help that person.
Okay.
That person needs to get their chemistry adjusted. They need to get the acids neutralized, so.
Tracy, your picture of it just looks like, all right, imagine the pupil is a person's head, and they're in water, and everything around that is like hair floating in water. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, actually.
Yeah, it is. It is. It really is. But you have that nice blue is there. That's why I say you'll detox relatively quickly, because your lymph, most of your lymph is just acute. So get after it. Get in there. You're going to see. You'll immediately start to have great effect with what you're doing.
I'm ready to lose my Pac-Man. That's what people call my spot, is a Pac-Man.
I'd do a little research into that cosmetic surgery. If it's not that much, it might be worth it, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even worry about it, honestly. It's what makes you you.
It kind of scares me.
True. Very true. If it's,
It makes you
I would
unique.
only worry about it if it was bothering your vision.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me.
I agree.
It's just a distraction when I talk to people, but once they get used to it.
Yeah, it makes you unique. I'd keep it,
Mhm.
or
Yep.
let it fade away, or whatever
Yeah.
happens.
Whatever
Hey,
happens.
the other
It's
thing
not
too
going to
is,
get bigger.
here's something very interesting. Now that we have the before and after pictures, just for science sake,
Mhm.
if it starts to close, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
You realize how, I mean, at least I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that happening. But I don't know. I don't know that anybody's really tried,
Yeah.
We
It'll
should
be interesting.
do a little bit of research on that, because this could be very, very, very interesting. Because in the same way that the trabecular fibers start to straighten out, you would suspect that would start to close. So we'll see.
Or it's actually closing. I mean, I think the worse it got, it started to close. It used to be, I can send you some old pictures, but it used to be shaped more like a heart. And at one point it looked like a little, kind of like a little mini airplane with the airplane wings. So this is actually it closing up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's actually been in the closing up phase. So I'm thinking that as I reverse this, it'll open back up and start to kind of fade away as it opens back up.
Okay, well, we're going to see. I suspect it will improve no matter what. I mean, I've never seen anything that doesn't improve.
Yeah.
Just every aspect of the body improves. So.
All right. Well, you could probably exit the screen share right now because I have to get to something to ask you a question about. And I have a friend on Facebook, and here it is. She has, bear with me, I'm going to do a screen share here in a second. It's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I'll do a screen share of this. I'm not sure if you're familiar of what this is, but it's very rare. It's a group of inherited disorders that affect connective tissues, which provide strength and flexibility to the skin, bones, blood vessels, and other organs. Resulting from a defect in collagen production, symptoms range from extremely flexible joints to severe complications, such as rupturing of organs. The syndrome does not have a cure, which is important. This is why, I figured I'd bring it to you. It does not have a cure, but the treatment aims at managing the symptoms and preventing further complications by using painkillers, maintaining blood pressure, and exercising regularly. And here's some of the symptoms. I know she's said that she's experiencing arthritis in her ankles, knees, and spine. Here are some of the treatments: analgesics, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, antihypotensive agents, and so on. Is this something that can be addressed through?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When they say that there's no cure,
Mhm.
look, let's go back up to where you were reading that.
Yeah.
They say there was no cure, and then they go on to say that they utilize treatments to treat symptoms. Do you think you can cure anything treating symptoms?
No, never.
So of course there's no cure.
It's a Band-Aid.
I mean, come on, these guys are anyway, okay, I won't go there. That's negative.
Tell us what you really think.
Okay. So in the world, there's no, I get a little upset, but there's no, I
That's
do
all
see
good.
it as there's no good and evil. There's only awake and asleep, right? So we got some pretty sleepy people out there, but the issue is we're back to the parathyroid and thyroid. That's exactly what we're dealing with right here. So same
So
thing.
chances are she has that ring around the
Yeah,
outside of her eye.
take a look in your eye. You most likely
Her
have
eyes.
a ring around the eye. And so what's happening is this is a person whose body is giving up the calcium as an antacid to neutralize acidosis and keep the blood alkaline. Okay. Alkaline blood is the highest priority of the body. Top priority has to stay. You have to have alkaline blood. So the body will do anything and everything to make that happen. And this particular body type is given up connective tissue. That's why the weakening of the connective tissue, because the calcium is being released into the blood to keep the blood alkaline. And the bone stuff, all the bone, the arthritis, the weakening of the bones, the weakening of the tissues. Yep, it's all it is. It's just one body type's strategy for dealing with acidosis.
Is there a specific diet that I know you're going to say fruitarianism,
Broken
but
record.
what specifically, what kind of fruits would you recommend?
Back to the berries.
Super berries.
Berries. Because the berries have all the minerals, including calcium. So you start putting calcium bone density back on.
Mm-hmm.
And not just the calcium, it has bicarbonate, all the bicarbonates, the potassium, sodium, zinc, selenium, magnesium, manganese. All of the bicarbonate minerals are in the fruits, but especially concentrated in the berries. So I would definitely recommend that person go ahead and just get on the fruit diet, go high on the berries, cut the protein out, because the protein is the acids. And for a person like that, when they put acids in their body, they're just giving up bone. That's exactly all they're doing. They're just saying, I don't want more bone. Give me more protein, and I'll just give up bone. So it's a pretty costly choice to make, and not knowing the choice, you just do what you do. But once you know that it's the fruits that you go to, then you know which choice to make. If you know better, you do better. So
How long do you think that it would take to overcome something like that?
depends on how strict they get with their diet. And so if they were to go 100% fruits, berries, and melons and high on the berries and 100% cut the protein. Well, if you're 100% on fruit, you don't have to worry about protein, right? If that person was to go 100% on fruit, they they would see immediate relief, but they would start to actually put bone density on. They'd start to see bone density most likely start to increase within 6 months to a year, I would imagine. But it's different for everybody because it depends on, so we got to go back to genetic weaknesses as well. So if the person has a genetic weakness in the kidneys and adrenals, it might take them a little longer to get the kidneys and adrenals activated to start to really pull and get progress going, you know. But if they have good, strong kidneys, and well, they wouldn't have this problem if their kidneys weren't down, okay? But the question is, why are the kidneys down? Is it because of a genetic weakness? Is it because of acidosis in the sense of inflammation? Or are they down because they're scarred? Is it down, you know, burnt and scarred? Or are they down because the adrenals went down, because the adrenals are the command and control over the kidney? So if the adrenals are down, the kidney might not be in too bad a shape, but the adrenals are down. And so that's where the iridology is so awesome, because we can kind of understand, we can predict a little better about what the journey might be like.
What about the arthritis in the ankles, knees, and spine? Would that also be addressed through
Absolutely.
diet?
Absolutely. 100%.
Can I ask a question about muscle?
Sure.
So with the Fruitarian, how do you build muscle?
Just work out. I mean, look at a gorilla, you know, and they get, they're eating a lot of leaves and things from time to time, but you know, in all reality, from what I understand and what Dr. Morse talks about, the only reason that they're getting away from fruit is when fruit's not available. They graze on what they can graze on. But the bottom line is, look at the frugivores. Look at all the frugivores on the planet. They are very powerful beings. You know, so there's no shortage of, you just do your strength training.
Okay, so if you are doing strength training, you don't have
Yep.
to add in any kind of plant proteins or anything.
No,
like that.
no, not at all.
Well, that was a great question, Tracy, because I want to do a screen share here. There's a guy on YouTube that goes by the name of Rob Bliss. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he's a fruitarian too. But he looks like he has AIDS. I hate to say it. He looks horrible. That does not look healthy. And that's all he does is, he's a fruitarian, and he's questioning whether he should start supplementing, which leads into another question. He feels that he might be deficient on B12, as do many fruitarians and vegetarians. So what would you say to something like this? This guy's a fruitarian, and he lost all of his muscle mass. What would you say to that?
Well, the first thing that I would ask is, did he lose the muscle mass on fruit, or was he always like this? Because
Actually, yeah, I looked up his page, and there was a time. I'm sorry, let me just get out of these real quick. But there was a time where, you know, and this was a year and a half before that video was taken on March 5th, 2018. So you can see that he had muscle there and a little fat going on there. Nothing terribly unhealthy, but and here's one where you can actually see like love handles right there, which was about a year and a half before that last video that I just played. So in a year and a half, he went from this to emaciated, basically.
That is, I don't know. That's really weird. I'd have to know more about the story. I'd have to see his eyes for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, because basically you're talking about malabsorption.
Right.
And I'd have to know more about his story, because that is so uncommon. I mean, it just, you just don't see that. You know, if we've got more examples of it, bring it. But
I don't want to lose my guns, you know?
Yeah, I know. Well, I tell you this much: if you at least know how to go back and detox yourself at the bare minimum, then that's the fruit detox is long known and well established science. But as far as this emaciation thing, I mean, we pull people. I'll give you an example. I've got this client that I've talked about before in Idaho that was totally malabsorbed, about 70 to 75 pounds, basically starving to death, full of tumors. Put her on fruit, and now she's almost 100 pounds. She's putting weight on and coming the other direction. So that's why I say there's something else is going on here. I can tell you that for sure. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I can guarantee that we're not getting the whole story.
Okay.
So if we could do some more research, if that is that individual part of the group, is he communicating with you?
No. I actually was researching Fruitarianism myself, and some of the things I ran across was like premature aging through Fruitarianism. And if you type that into YouTube, there's a plethora of videos on people that said that they had premature aging because of Fruitarianism.
That's an interesting one as well. I've never heard that before. I'll take a look. I'll look into all
Yeah,
this stuff.
I appreciate it because
I'm a totally open-minded individual. So let's take a look at it. But again, I mean, if anything, we see wrinkles disappearing. We see people getting younger and more vibrant.
Okay.
And so that's, and you got to bear in mind also, when we can take people from extreme chronic conditions and pull them all the way back to vitality, the hundreds of thousands of clinical cases with Dr. Morse of this. And he gets attacked routinely for that. And you look at all these statistics and you realize that, so from our perspective, absolutely, this is the way to flush, regenerate the body, clean out, detox, all that. And if it's true what I'm saying, then you can bet that there's going to be disinformation out there designed to mislead people from this remedy. Because if what I'm saying true, if fruit really does cure basically all the diseases that we've talked, basically all disease, if it's true that acidosis is the primary source of all disease, what I'm saying, and that going to fruit relieves the acidosis and cures everything, can you imagine the level of disruption that would cause?
Sure.
Because I mean, the medical industry, the medical and pharmaceutical industry is number one, right? Top, the biggest industry on the planet. And so there is nasty disinformation out there on fruitarians. So watch out for that. Have an open mind, but by all means, be careful because, and even with the B12 thing, Dr. Morse addresses B12 and he says that it's not a mineral supplementation problem. In other words, it's not a deficiency in the diet. It's a mineral utilization problem by the adrenals. And they talk about how the B12 is made in the gut from the fermentation and everything. But according to Dr. Morse, he says in over 55 years, he's never seen a B12 issue when people are on the fruit and living on the fruit. There's no symptomology of that. Because if you look at the
all right, wait, time out. Which specific fruits would be higher in B12 that you would recommend?
I don't know that there is a source. Supposedly it comes from the bacteria in the gut from digesting meat or something like that, is what I've basically heard on it. There's more science to it than that, I'm sure, but the essence of it is it's more of a byproduct of the digestion in the GI than anything else. It's like a bacteria created type thing.
So maybe it would be good to have meat or something that occasionally, once a month or something like that, that would give you that.
I mean, if you go to scripture, it says eat meat sparingly, right? So, right. I'm talking, see, for me, a meat cheat would be like a glandular for your thyroid or something like that, so that at least the meat is targeted for regeneration of what you would have as weaknesses in your organs, because if you're just eating red meat, it's sort of, if people that eat just red meat, like let's say I put you on red meat, you research the Fruitarians, now go research the Atkins diet and see what meat will do. If you go on all fruit, you can barely find anything wrong with it. You have these few cases here and there where it's a random thing and it gets thrown in your face. But go research the Atkins diet, and it's just riddled with deaths and crazy. You know what I mean? It's
well, I'll tell you what. I did the protein diet, and I lost over 30 pounds in 3 months quickly. And I was eating like 4 eggs for breakfast, a hamburger, no bread, or no sugar, just the plain hamburger for lunch and a chicken breast for dinner. I lost like 30 pounds in 3 months. But subsequently, last year I also had the heart attack. So.
Yeah, and that's exactly what always happens with that diet. It's right in time with the statistics. So, just watch out for that disinformation. But by all means, let's do our homework. Let's do our research and make sure we know what we're doing. So what I'll do is everything that you guys have been throwing at me, I go back and research it. Good. So, and then we can address it, in the future shows.
Good. Because I'd appreciate that. I know that.
And I love to be critical. So bring everything out. And then what I'll do is I'll do my very best and I'll come back on the next show to present what I come up with on it.
Okay. I know as I'm a triple Libra, And that means, a lot of people think that Libras are all about balance. It's the exact opposite. We are constantly seeking balance. So when you're a triple Libra, my sun, moon, and rising are all in Libra. It means I'm really, really, really seeking balance. And when you brought up this fruitarianism diet, I'm thinking, hallelujah, I love fruit, but I also love meat. And I could give that up. That's no big deal. But if I had a choice between being a fruitarian or a vegetarian, fruitarian, no doubt. I love fruit that much. I really don't like vegetables. So yeah, I was all in. But then I started doing some research, and like I said, I do have my concerns. I don't want to turn out to be looking like that one emaciated dude.
Yeah, for sure. I tell you what, I've been full blown on it. I mean, I have cheats. I think I might have mentioned French fries of all the damn things. I
Yeah.
never expected French fries. Everything else, all the other stuff kind of fell away, and the French fry craving hung on. And I'm like, what is this? But it's just what it is.
Just curious, I forgot what your answer was. Did you cook it in avocado or coconut oil?
Well, I haven't been really doing them, making
Or
my
did you
own
bake it?
like that, just out and about, so it's
Right.
by no means a healthy cheat per se, but at the same time, the potato, it does have an alkaline ash, it's just that it's cooked in the oils and things, but most likely for me, it's a candida. I've got candida craving the sugar from the potato and then the salt. So my adrenals. So it's a combination of adrenals and candida. And that's pretty much what I do see in my eyes. And it's one of the things that I'm battling. So, which candida, we pretty much all battle candida. I mean, that's just one of the things, more or less to different degrees, and it's one of the last things that really kind of hangs on too in the end. So not too surprising. But I mean, I haven't lost strength or muscle or, I mean, as far as that goes, I did lose a little bit of strength and endurance, but it's because I've been sitting at my computer all the time. I don't do any, I've been doing so much computer work lately. So I think it's about getting out and keeping up with your strength training. Cause like I say, you look at the other animals that in the frugivorian category, and they're very powerful beings, very powerful animals. So, and then for example, if you look at, elephants, for example, they don't eat meat and they've got tons of muscle. So the idea that you have to eat meat to build muscle is a fallacy in its own right in terms of the thinking on it.
So there are, for those listening out there, you can use coconut oil or avocado oil. Those are both medium chain saturated fats that actually help you lose weight, as opposed to other oils that are out there that are just nasty for you. And both of those are fruit, coconut and avocado. Yeah, they're both fruit oils, correct?
And olive.
Yeah, they are.
I know you wouldn't recommend any oils to begin with, probably, or would you?
Well, it's more the issue of the fact that it's isolated chemistry. When you start isolating from the whole food source, you start running into imbalances, and it's exactly what happens. It's just, you're just begging for an imbalance, pretty much.
Are olives considered a fruit, Andy?
Say that again.
Are olives considered a fruit?
I believe so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They have a seed.
But they tend to, yes, absolutely. They tend to be, processed in different ways and things, fermented or whatever, and that can reduce the impact of the fruit, and rather than being raw. But that would be the only consideration. So you're totally fine. You're good to go on it. It's just that oftentimes it's a modified food source, so you might not be getting the full value. So I would look into that as a consideration.
Okay.
I have another friend who has issues with adrenal glands, but you were already addressing that. Chances are she has that outer ring again.
Well, that's more thyroid.
Okay.
On the ring around the iris.
Okay.
On the adrenals, if the adrenals are down, you'll see things like nerve rings on the inside of the eye. You'll see like ripples in a pond. You'll see nerve rings.
Okay.
You'll also see what we call radii solaris, which are when they look like spokes on a wheel. If you have straight lines from the pupil to the iris, just like this, and so what you'll have, usually if somebody has radii solaris, they'll also have the rings. They'll have the lines and the rings, and that's a telltale sign that the adrenals and the autonomic nervous system have been stressed most of their life.
And specifically, the kind of diet you would recommend, specific fruits, or
back to the berries, because the berries regenerate the nervous system better than anything else, and it's really when the adrenals go down, basically you're going to have an autonomic nervous system weakness, central nervous system. So back to the berries to get electrified, to regenerate all that tissue.
There was a comment by Scott on the chat on YouTube. He said that golden berries have B12.
Oh, wonderful. There you go. And so I hadn't even heard of that, because I know a lot of fruitarians, that's a concern, even though Dr. Morse isn't concerned, because if you look at the symptomology on B12, it reads exactly like acidosis. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's a misinterpretation there, and I'm researching that one myself. So I appreciate you bringing that out. You said golden berries?
Golden berries.
Wonderful. Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Alice had waited a long time. This question came up a long time ago in the chat, but I wanted to make sure that we covered everything that we got to beforehand. But she's asking, does a fruit diet supply enough iron for women, and what supplements are recommended on this diet?
Okay, so we don't recommend any supplements because the fruits, particularly the berries, have a broad spectrum of minerals, so iron included. And if you have an iron deficiency, it's more than likely that it's actually not it's not a matter of the diet. It's not a dietary deficiency. It's a mineral utilization problem by the adrenals, because the adrenals are responsible for mineral utilization. They repack the cholesterol matrix. And so if you're having a mineral deficiency, it's almost always a mineral utilization deficiency in the adrenals. And the adrenals are compromised because they're sitting on the kidneys, and the kidneys get burnt and compromised, and they're all hot right at the acid because they're on the doorway out. They're sitting right at the doorway out, right? Just think about the position of the adrenals here for just a second. The kidneys are just right on the doorway out, just right at the edge. They're at the hottest end of the very end of the cycle of life. And then the adrenals are sitting right on top of the kidneys, and they're receiving the cleaning of the fats. So the kidneys are cleaning the fats. So this is at the first of the cycle, and this is at the end of the cycle. Boom, alpha and omega. See the problem? That's why the adrenals are so vulnerable to the condition of the kidneys, because the acids are supposed to be getting separated out and going out into the urine. And if the kidneys lose their efficiency, or for any reason are damaged, or anything's wrong with the kidneys, they start slipping hot, dirty fat into the adrenals and burn them out. So the adrenals, that's a very common play. Kidneys and adrenals, kidneys and adrenals, kidneys and adrenals. That's where it's all at.
Yeah. Well, that's where one of the things I need to work on too.
And can everybody see why? Because you got the door out and the door in. They're just right there. It's at the point of regeneration, right where the body's regenerating the fat. And so you just have that. I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road. So
here's a question from Radical Joy. Fruitarians are known for having problems with their teeth. Why is that, and how can that be avoided?
Again, watch out for disinformation. Be careful about that. I would look closely at that information and check that statistic, because we experience the opposite. What we've seen is actually enamel regrowing on the teeth. We've seen fillings pop out and fill in and regrow. Dr. Morse has talked about whole new sets of teeth growing in even. And we see bone density increasing. It's acidosis that weakens bone. The teeth, when you start losing teeth and bone density and all that, that's chronic acidosis. So what happens a lot of times is you'll see where people will go into a detox, they'll live on fruit for 6 months or something like that, and then they'll complain that their teeth are bad, but their teeth were probably bad to begin with. And it could even be detox symptoms, but it is the slowest thing. One of the slowest things to see recover is bone. It's a slow process. It takes a couple years, So they call themselves a fruitarian for 3 months and then say their teeth went bad. I'm not buying it. In order to repair the teeth, I mean, what other diet can regrow your teeth? Name me a diet that'll fix your teeth. There isn't one. There's not a diet. I don't know of any diet that you can say, go eat this diet and then your teeth will regrow.
It could also be a problem with the water.
It is. Yeah. There's a lot of factors. So just be very careful about that. Try to go back to the understanding. What would weaken bone? Acids. Bone is calcium. When you're losing bone density, when your bones are dissolving, it's because of acidosis. So when you go to a bicarbonate alkaline food source and detox the acids out, you gain bone density. So it totally flies in the face of logic and understanding, and it flies in the face of the statistics that we know. in Dr. Morse's 55 years of clinical success. So and again, I have an open mind. Believe me, I am open to whatever comes our way, but that's another case right there. I'd say watch out for that disinformation, guys, because this industry, if in fact if what I'm saying is true, that you fix your kidneys up and get the acids out and you can fix your health, imagine how dangerous that is to the largest industry on planet Earth, which is
Pharma.
highly questionable in their morality and their integrity. So
Yeah.
just dig a little deeper, scratch the surface.
I agree. Fern Crone is asking, what about pH test strips you can buy at the store? Will they be accurate?
Yes, go ahead and do your pH testing, but you're basically testing your urine. I would imagine you can test your sweat and under your saliva. So what you have to realize with the body is you have different pHs all over the body. You know, the urine ideally is acidic. If you're peeing alkaline, not good. That means you're not getting acids out. You're losing bicarbonates, if anything. So it means your kidneys are inflamed. You're not filtering. But if you've got acidic saliva, not good. The saliva is supposed to be alkaline. See what I'm saying? So the pH strips are great. You just have to know what you're looking for. You know, your sweat should be acidic. Your saliva should be alkaline. Your urine should be acidic. And so it'll tell you a lot. You can learn a lot by those. Yeah, definitely.
It makes sense that the sweat would be acidic because you're excreting out the toxins that are in your body.
That's right. And the skin is the third kidney.
Huh. Here's a question that just popped up from Allison. Does this type of diet help with glaucoma and cataracts?
Absolutely. So this is an individual where their body's using cholesterol to protect the tissues. So they're plaquing cholesterol pursuant to the acidosis.
Okay. I'm not sure how this is a question, and I'm hoping you have an answer. But Samantha, it's more like, I don't know. I'll just put it out there. Samantha is asking, did you look into taking bicarb of soda? Do you know what that means?
Yeah,
I'm not sure what that means.
Not sure either. Yeah.
Instead of something, it's almost like an incomplete sentence or a question, at least, if nothing else. I really didn't understand. I was hoping you would understand that. I don't understand it myself.
Okay.
Does she mean like bicarbonate soda, like baking soda for the alkalinity of the body?
Well, I think we talked a little bit about this last week. Somebody seemed to bring up a similar question.
Right.
It's just, I think it matters if it's a natural bicarbonate, mineral bicarbonate, then you're probably good to go. If it's like a CO2 kind of synthetic carbonation of a drink, then obviously no, that's not going to be helpful. So you just have to know a little bit more about what they're asking.
All right. She's just clarifying. She says, sorry about that. Someone asked you the last time, and you said that you would look into it.
Oh, I see what she's saying. Yeah. Most likely, I don't really worry on the water too much. I'd go more for like reverse osmosis or distilled water, and then let the fruit do the bicarbing for you. That'd be my primary focus. If you did come across a spring that had some good natural minerals and it was all highly tested out and good mineral spring water, even if it was bicarbonate spring water, absolutely. But there's so many different types of water sources, right? So people make big claims, when it comes to water. So I would be a little bit precautious on that. That's why reverse osmosis is a good way to go, because you're pretty much going to be pretty well good to go. And when you look at the fruit has all the bicarbonate minerals. It's not just one or two bicarbonate minerals. It's a vast spectrum array of bicarbonate minerals, and it's coming colloidal through the plant because it's being drawn up through the roots of the plant, integrated into the tissues of the plant. So it's a microscopic colloidal mineral. And it's coming with 90 to 95% water content in the fruit, and it's living water. So you're going to have that living consciousness water with the minerals. So which mineral water do you really want? Do you want the fruit mineral water, or do you want some questionable water where somebody's trying to sell you water and make money and who knows what's in it?
Well, I have a question for you, because I use an ozone machine in my water. So by putting the ozone in, I guess it would make my water go from H2O to H2O2, I would assume.
Oh, this is a
designing.
great question. I'm glad you brought this up because I was considering the ozone stuff that you're doing.
Mhm.
One thing about ozone is it's, to my knowledge, the most volatile compound there is, right? I mean, it's very volatile.
That's great for a triple Libra
Yeah,
who's out of balance. Yeah,
yeah,
I love it.
it's extremely volatile in the sense that it's reactive, you know. So what oxygen does is it rusts things. Things get rusted by oxygen. So I would be a little bit cautious with that because primarily my understanding on the ozone is that it's an antiviral. Mostly it's like an antiviral type pathogen load thing, dealing with viral pathogens. So I don't know if, but viruses are proteins, right? So if it's oxidizing the proteins, it might be good. I made a note to research into that because I saw on your I was looking on your YouTube channel where you're showing the ozone cubes and stuff, and
Mhm.
it's very interesting to me. I just don't have enough information to say one way or another,
Right.
but my gut feeling tells me no.
I'll tell you what, though, when we had the red tide here, I was pouring ozone water into the Gulf of Mexico a couple years ago, and there would be times where crabs would come out of nowhere and just would like be swallowing up the water. You don't see crabs coming out of
Wow.
nowhere
Oh,
anytime.
it could be amazing. You know, actually,
Yeah.
it might be really amazing. So I just wondered about maybe because I thought that it might throw an imbalance in. That's what I was a little bit
Right.
worried about, you know?
Like I said, with me being a triple Libra, everything's imbalanced.
You know, because
I'm
we
always
have
trying to
we
find
have
that
this general
balance.
principle. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say that, but we have a general principle of not wanting to isolate chemistry because when you start isolating chemistry, you're almost guaranteeing yourself an imbalance of some kind.
Right.
And that's why we like that whole food complex chemistry. That's to see the fruit energy is it's a complex chemistry inside of fruit, but it's balanced complex energy.
Here's a question from Sherry Ann. What does it mean when your eyes change color?
Well, if they're getting darker, you're probably getting a lot more acidic. If they're going lighter, and whether you have brown eyes or blue eyes, brown-eyed people, they'll have, if they're acidic, they'll almost look black. And so the darker the eye, generally, it's indicative of acidosis. Yeah. So
Sherry,
it depends which way they're changing. Sorry.
right. To the blue, the better.
Yeah, if they're turning lighter, then they won't do that generally. Your eyes generally will not be going lighter unless you're consciously making an effort to cause that to happen by detox. Normally, the process of life, you tend to get more and more acidic as you age. And that's unfortunate because it leads to a very painful suffering exit, let's say. And so, but if you can sustain your alkaline chemistry all the way late into the years, you're gonna keep the inflammation out of the body. You're gonna be, you know what I mean? So if you look around, you'll see that as you get to where you're trained to see it, you'll see that the acidosis is what's wearing on people. So, yeah.
When you were talking about how to take a picture, I actually took a picture of myself, and you can actually see the blue
Oh, wow. Yeah. Look at that.
in my eye. And this
Get a
is,
better picture.
well, this was 1 week after doing the Fruitarian diet, so you can actually see the blue in my eye.
Yeah. You know, that claim that person was making about early aging, I'll look into that because that I've never heard that one before. The
Yeah.
B12 one, we don't worry about the B12 claim. That gets thrown out all the time. People throw that one out. And there's just, I mean, these claims, I mean, there's nothing to substantiate the B12 claim. And it just feels like disinformation because all of a sudden it's just all over the internet everywhere. And there's no detail in that claim. It doesn't really specifically. But anyway, so I thought I'd mention that on that. So.
Okay. Sherry's asking, what causes the body to be overly acidic and the stomach that lacks enough hydrochloric acid?
Low on the bicarbonates. If she's lacking hydrochloric acid, low in the hydrochloric acid on the stomach, I guess I would wonder how she came to that conclusion. In the sense of, I mean, in other words, are you just not digesting meat very well anymore, kind of thing? You know, like because you don't need hydrochloric acid to digest carbohydrates. You would be utilizing that for protein, so you wouldn't really know where you're at on the stomach acid unless you're eating protein and you're ineffectively digesting the protein. You know what I'm saying? So I'm wondering if I guess what I'm saying is, how did she come to that conclusion? Was that told by a doctor? Maybe the person can answer back and let us know a little bit how they why do they say that? How do they know that? You know, it might be a misunderstanding is what I'm getting at. So there could be, we might be able to help them further explore.
Right, right. So if you want to further elaborate, feel free to do so, Sherry. Here's a comment by Elaine Carlisle talking about the Ehlers-Danlos, that syndrome that we were talking
Yeah.
about earlier.
Uh-huh.
She said it's similar to RA. I'm not sure what that stands for, but
Rheumatoid arthritis.
Rheumatoid arthritis, yeah.
oh, okay, right. It's caused by heavy metals in the body. Medical Medium's detox smoothie removes the heavy metals from the body. But the medical medium is all about, he's the exact opposite. It's like, man, I could see, remember that game Rock'em Sock'em Robots, where you had those little robots and I could see you guys playing Rock'em Sock'em Robots, you know?
Yeah.
In this corner, we have Fruitarianism, and in this corner, vegetarianism. Go get them, boys.
Precisely. That's exactly right. That's what it is. So when it comes to the heavy metals,
Heavy metal. Woo!
you know, heavy metals are an interesting one. You know, people want to go to the chelations and things, but consider this, okay? When you look at alkaline, take like soap. When you're washing your hands, it's alkaline. You'll notice with alkalines, they're slippery. When you go to the acid side, you're getting sticky and agglomerated. Remember how I said the oils, they get thicker and thicker and stickier? So the reason that the heavy metals are agglomerated into the body is because all of the oils have been hardened off and they're all sticky and I mean, I'll give you an example. When you take somebody who's acidic and you pull their blood, their cells, the red blood cells, the hemoglobin will all be stuck together, clumping into chains. But when you have somebody who's alkaline and you pull their blood, all of the cells are freely moving around each other. They slide around each other. They hold their own space. They don't get stuck together to each other. So when you go to the alkaline diet, the toxicity and the metals and everything, they literally just slide right out of you. You just become slippery on the inside. And not only that, but the metals that are in the body are the mineral ash from the food that you've been eating. And it's either going to be an alkaline ash or an acid ash. So it could be that they've got acid oxide minerals that they're talking about, which would also be neutralized by the bicarbonate chemistry. So not only are you neutralizing this toxic chemistry, because see, these metals, if they're neutral, fine, they slide out. But what I'm saying, if it's an acid charged element, it'll be neutralized by the bicarbonate side of the chemistry. So either which way you slice it, this bicarbonate approach is going to help detox those metals out.
Seems like it would be easier to be a fruitarian than it would be a vegetarian, because as a fruitarian, you can still have what we consider or think of as vegetables, right? Like cucumbers and tomatoes. A lot of people consider those vegetables, but they're actually fruits. So
yeah. And the thing is, veggies are great. Don't get me wrong. Go to the veggies, have fun on veggies. If you love them, you love them. But the issue with veggies is they're basically neutral. And because they're neutral in the body, you're not going to hurt you, but they're not really going to help you either. And if you're trying to pick yourself up from being down, you don't really want to be stuck in neutral. And if you've got somewhere to go, you might not want to be in neutral.
okay. Here's a great question in the YouTube chat room. Heather's asking, what about putting crystals in your water or gemstones to make like a sun tea, or to put them, well, I think you would say put them, if anything, in your fruit juice, but I'll let you answer the question.
That's an interesting question. I'd say absolutely go for it. I'm not real proficient. That's probably somebody else's bag of tricks. But I, from what I understand, absolutely, with the frequencies and stuff and modulating frequencies, it's sort of like tuning and toning, right? It's tuning the frequencies, and which would make perfect sense, bringing the frequencies into harmony. You know, it's just a science that's worthy of exploration. Is about as limited as my knowledge on that.
Okay. It's a great question though, Heather. So, as a matter of fact, I'll be having on Adrienne Goff at the end of the month, and she's a crystal and gemstone expert. So come back at the end of the month, ask her. Here's one from Galaxies Are Born. Please tell us what these super berries are specifically.
Okay, so when I'm talking about super berries, I'm talking about berries that tend to be more concentrated than blueberries. Let's use those as the benchmark. And so I'll give you some examples. I really like huckleberries, aronia berries, lingonberries, Saskatoon berries, elderberries even, although most people need to cook the elderberries. I eat them raw, but they're really strong for people to eat raw. So watch out for those. They're super, super powerful. Also like goji berries, so you see the list kind of, it just goes on and on and on and on. And there's everywhere from tropical all the way to cold climate berries. But when you're getting, and even grapes, good old fashioned dark red grapes, that's a great berry in its own right. I wouldn't necessarily call it a super berry, but although I have come across, we had the local vineyard here. There was an abandoned vineyard that had like 400 different varieties of grapes in it. It was like a test vineyard, and then it got abandoned. And there was about 10 species that survived just all on their own. And one of them was this really small, super potent, powerful, tiny little mini grape. And it had these crunchy seeds in it. And man alive, you would eat just one little tiny cluster of those things, and it was instant detox you would go into. And we discovered this, a friend of mine, we ran into it last year, and it was amazing. That might be one of the most powerful detoxers there is.
What was that called?
We don't even know the name of it. It was a really small little dark, they look like Concord grapes, but much, much smaller, like even smaller than a blueberry.
So it wasn't a dingleberry. We know that.
Yeah. So even the grapes can pack a
joke.
punch, So.
Bad joke. All right. Sorry.
So I have a quick question, Andy.
Okay.
Boron, what's your take on boron for bones and for detoxing? I know you're not into like adding anything to any fruit regimen, but like
it's just you're back to an isolate again.
Yeah.
The problem with isolated chemistry is that it requires countervailing chemistry to metabolize it. So you almost always create antagonistic chemistry in the body. I mean, it's just next to nearly impossible to avoid. In fact, I don't know of a case where you don't create an imbalance. If you sit and supplement one thing, trying to play God is what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you just go to this whole food chemistry, see, the body is very complex in its own right, So when you eat complex chemistry for a complex system, it makes sense. It's just that complexity needs to be balanced. So you take like these super berries. There is so much complex chemistry in a super berry. There's just what we know of is complex, and that's probably not even the tip of the iceberg about everything that's going on when you start to consider all the DNA and everything involved with that living chemistry. Mm-hmm. So when you take that and then compare it to any isolated chemistry, you quickly realize that you're at a severe disadvantage trying to play God, because you're just talking about one isolated little tiny specific aspect versus maybe millions and millions of quanta of chemical composition. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you realize, wow, it would not only is it a bad idea, it's a really bad idea, basically, to supplement. I'll give you an example. If you were doing calcium supplements in an acidic body, all you're doing is making kidney stones and stones in the body. You're just going to create stones in the body. And people that do that, if they're super acidic and they never address the problem and they never open their kidneys and they never start detoxing, but they're losing bone density because of the acidosis. So they think, well, I'm losing bone density, I'm losing calcium, I better take calcium. All they do is create stones, because you see what I mean? Yeah. And it's just like every time we try it, it blows up in our face. Mm-hmm. So I'm literally erroring on the safe side, guys. I can't really prove what I'm saying. I can't prove it's a bad idea to do boron, but I can say I can make that argument that I just made, and you can see that, well, let me just error on the safe side and go to the fruit, and if that doesn't fix it, then maybe I'll reconsider the boron. See what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. Thank you.
There's more questions piling in. So here we go. What's your opinion of colloidal silver?
Back to the isolated chemistry problem. Yep, I don't think so. And I know Dr. Morse doesn't go for it either. And so I agree with Dr. Morse here again.
I actually use it to after I brush my teeth, I use it to rinse my mouth out and I spit it out and then I
That
do
would
it
be
one.
good.
Well,
That's
I
cool.
then I do
That
one
works.
swallow afterwards.
Oh,
So, yeah.
one swallow is not going to hurt you, especially if you're on fruit. That's the cool thing about fruit detox, because even if you do the antagonistic chemistry, it'll balance that too, in a way. You know what I mean? So it's pretty cool.
Okay.
So you'd be safe on it. But
All right.
my understanding, again, let's go back to the reason for colloidal silver. Is it not for the antiviral purposes?
I'd assume so.
Essentially, that's pretty much what people are doing it for. And why would you have a pathogen load in the body? It's because the interstitial fluids are filthy dirty, and you've got all these pathogens feeding on all this material in the body that's not escaping. And so you'll take on viral loads. And so when people have a viral load, the plan is not to go kill the viruses and the bacteria and the funguses, that they're not the problem. If anything, they're helping, believe it or not, because they're taking volatile chemistry and consuming it and breaking it down into less dangerous chemistry. So like, for example, the bacteria that breaks down ammonia, it breaks it down into nitrite and then breaks it further down into nitrate. And nitrate is far less dangerous than ammonia. See what I'm saying? So the bacteria wasn't the problem. So why would you want to kill it? It's actually helping you. That's just nature trying to help you. So when you start doing antivirals, you're heading towards fatal events. When you look at the antibiotics and all these antivirals and things like that, that's where you have the highest fatal events. Because if it can kill a virus and a bacteria, it can kill you too.
Well, that's what they're saying about garlic, that it has a strong antibiotic
Yeah.
property to it.
Yeah. And we don't go, we're not trying to attack the microorganisms. We see them as our friend, really, even though it's uncomfortable. Some people have some pretty gnarly ones, but the fact is they're not the problem. The problem is the kidneys went down, the sewage backed up, and it created a toxic, nasty environment around the cells. See what I'm saying? So on its basis, it's a little bit flawed on the basis of it. See what I mean?
So, okay, now in this situation, I've had, like, for example, the start of a toothache, right? And what I'll do is I'll swish around some colloidal silver and spit it out, and within a few days that toothache's gone away from the colloidal silver.
Mhm.
I mean, what can you do if you had that with fruit?
Well, here's what
Or
I'm
would you
thinking.
not get that to begin with?
Here's what I'm thinking. You might be misunderstanding the fluctuation of that coming and going. It might be coming and going, not because of the colloidal silver. It's funny like that. It's hard to read the body, because sometimes you get these coincidental. Now you're probably going to tell me, no, I've done it so many times. I know that it is what it is. And it could be, you might be exactly right. But again, the only reason you keep getting that recurring inflammation, let me ask you this question. Which side of the body is that toothache on?
That I don't remember. It's been such a long time. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, I think it's the right side. I can't remember which side we determined. The side of you that was a little bit more suppressed. You know what I mean? That side, because I had the same problem. All my tooth problems were on my left side. I had a left earache, and all my problems were on the left side. And in my eyes, left kidney and adrenal were down. And so,
Yeah, I actually had a baby tooth.
And oh, real quick, if I can, on
Go ahead.
my teeth are repairing. And for the person that asked on the teeth, I started this journey with damaged teeth. That's why I did it. And ever since I went on fruit, no toothaches, no problems at all, and the gaps are closing. And my earache, which was right next to the teeth and the earache were related, and none of them, they're both gone and never come back.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Yeah, I had a baby tooth on my right fang tooth up here up until a few years ago. And finally, the adult tooth said, I'm coming out. And it decided to come out through the roof of my mouth behind the baby tooth. So I have a oral surgeon friend who extracted the adult tooth. Then I had the baby tooth extracted and a bridge put in. But I gave the baby tooth to my parents. I'm like, do I get money for this? They're like, no, that expired at the age of 18.
That's great.
But yeah, it was on the right-hand side, so I did have issues on the right-hand side.
Yeah. See, you'll notice that. And that, like with Tracy, I think we were talking left side for you, right, Tracy? Yep. You'll notice that. And then you don't misdiagnose it. You realize it's just pockets of acidosis, and all you got to do is get it out and you feel better. It's wonderful.
Okay. So moving on. That's an easy question. Are bananas okay to eat?
Yeah. Okay. That's a good question, though. That's a fun question. Yeah, it's a fun question. So here's my take on bananas. from what we can tell, and Dr. Morse, from what I understand, agrees with what I'm saying here, is that bananas are not a really powerful detoxer per se. They're more like the perfect food for the perfect body. So like if you were just perfectly healthy, and bananas are just like perfect, but they're just sort of like, they kind of hold that ground, you know? But if you've got extreme acidosis, you need something more powerful than a banana.
Elaine Carlisle brought up that question or that comment about the Ehlers-Danlos. And she also went on to say that the medical medium is a pro-fruit person and agrees a lot with what you are saying right now. It's just a little clarification there. What kind of fruits do you eat on a daily basis? It's from Sean. Is there one fruit that you eat every day?
This is one right here that I'm eating. This is a super smoothie, right? And you can see the darkness of it. It's from the berries. So I do a lot of super berry smoothies, and in that smoothie, a typical smoothie for me, what I'll do is I'll get up in the morning and I'll juice about 5 lemons, maybe 3 or 4 limes, maybe 5 or 6 oranges, and maybe 5 or 6 apples. And then I'll take that juice and I'll pour it in my blender and blend up the super berries that I listed earlier. And that makes a really strong smoothie, because with all the lemons and limes and oranges, you have a really strong citrus base. And then you blend the super berries into that, and buckle your seatbelt, because it's going to get real fun from there on out. If you're real acidic, something like that will trigger instant detox symptoms. You'll just go right into detox. And even me, I'm in detox right now, guys. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a little bit, I've got 2 of them, and I'm going to India on Wednesday. So I've been digging deep on my detox, because I want to make sure I'm really super healthy before I go. And I haven't had detox symptoms in a while, and because I've been doing fasting on top of these really strong smoothies, and it kicked my butt a little bit this morning. I'm like, wow, I haven't had detox symptoms in months. So it's just all about how deep you dig in, you know? And so it's a question of how powerful do you want to go with this? If you're just sitting eating grapes, like a great like starting point for people is just dark red grapes. And I know they're not in season, you know, so, and there's truth to just eating the fruit of the season, eating the most ripe, delicious fruit that you have available at the time, and eating simply. Okay. Like you can just say oranges are just, you run into some fantastic navel oranges, right? They're just bomb. What I always do is I'll order a couple boxes of them. I'm like, wow, these oranges are good. Can you ship me some in? And a lot of times I'll have boxes in the back, and then you get a case discount. And then what I'll do is I'll just live on oranges for 2 or 3 weeks, only oranges. And then I'll switch to just grapes, then just apples, then just, you see, and when you mono eat fruit like that, it gets even more powerful, because your body sets up the metabolic pathways, and it gets really good at eating just grapes. You know what I mean? Breaking it down and utilizing it. So you get the most for your food when you mono eat like that for a little period of time. Even if you just eat grapes for a week and then oranges for a week and then that kind of thing, that's a good way to just really dig in and get rolling.
Well, the day after I interviewed you last week, my mom called me, and I went down to my parents' house. They have this Valencia orange tree, and I picked like 2 bags full of Valencia oranges. They had way too many, and they're like, here, take as many as you want. So I've been doing a lot of Valencia oranges this week. Yeah. One thing I wanted to point out, though, I did buy a bag of lemons and limes, and I juiced all of them.
Oh,
you just put them? Yeah.
You juiced the whole lemon?
No. I learned a great way on the internet. You chop off like the end part of the lemon, and then peel it down, then peel it around, and you can peel the lemon quickly that way. The lime, you're screwed. There's no easy way to peel a lime.
I always juice the whole lime. For me, I just make sure my limes are organic, you know, so that the skin is as healthy as possible, because the lime has a very thin pith and is zesty. So I peel my lemons and I peel the oranges and I juice the whole lime.
Okay. Well, I was peeling. I remember. I thought you said you didn't juice all your limes. It was like, but the last time.
On the lemons.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll leave like half a lemon and I'll juice the whole part of like half, but if you juice too much of them all the way, it just takes the fun out of it. It gets too bitter, you know, but a little bit of pith, you know, is fine.
I ended up doing that, and I had a pitcher in my refrigerator about that full of lemon lime juice. So I thought, okay, I'll put this into my smoothies. So I poured what I thought was a small amount. Apparently, it's pretty potent.
You did.
You know, I did the blueberries, the strawberries. I think I did sour sop and blackberries and a banana in there, as well as some palm juice for the liquid, along with what I thought was a small amount of that lemon lime juice, but it ended up tasting like a pure lemon lime. It was potent. And I figured I'm not going to throw this away. It's probably really good for me, but it just didn't taste the greatest when it was that potent.
Overwhelming. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing too is the more acidic you are, the more you'll react to lemons and limes and citrus, because it's a citric acid up front. Okay. Which is, it's going to be a little bit aggravating if you're already acidic. And then the ash is extremely alkaline. That's why lemons are the most alkaline, but up front, they're the most acidic, right? So you get an upfront slap in the face because you're already acidic and you get hit with acids, right? And then you get hit with the alkaline ash coming after that, which is going to be a detox symptom. So it can be a little bit offensive to somebody who's acidic up front, but they make really quick progress. I mean, it's a good way to dig in and get going, but it's just almost moving too fast. Because if you take somebody who's alkaline, lemons start to taste sweet. You know that. So if you're really acidic and you eat a lemon, you're just, whoa, it's just like, can't even handle it. But then they get sweeter and sweeter and sweeter and everything, you know what I mean? So that's probably indicative of your level of acidosis.
Here's a question from Lady Laser. Have your bowel movements changed on this diet?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you'll become more regular. Up front, you're going to have potentially diarrhea and lots of problems, you know, with detox. You know, as you detox, it's going to get wild. The crazy stuff that'll come out is wild, but then you'll become more regular. Now, if you're doing a lot of juicing, then the regularity, it's not, it's more when you're eating, if you're just eating the fruit, just eating fruit. If you just sit and eat fruit, forget the blenders, forget the juicers, just straight up eat fruit. Eating fruit is the best way, guys. By the way, I got to say this. I like the juicers. I like the blenders because I'm doing high concentrations, high volumes. So if anything, I'm the guinea pig. If everybody's worried, I'm going out ahead because I'm going for it, man. I'm diving all the way in big time, right? So I'm going to push the limits of this. And that's another point. I'm pushing the limits of this and my teeth are getting better. See what I mean? So that doesn't make sense, right? But I am truly pushing the limits of this. So did that answer that question? I kind of forgot I don't know if I hit the
It was
point.
about the bowels, but
oh yeah, on the bowels.
it got to your teeth.
yeah, I figured I drifted there. But when you just plain eat fruit, then you're going to get a lot more fiber with that. See, that's the problem with the juicing. So when it comes to the stooling, what you'll find is if you just plain flat out or just eating 100% fruit, you'll go totally regular, and it's going to sound weird, but your shit won't stink. So you can get
or your piss.
Yeah, or your piss. The odor goes away. It's pretty cool, and it's like squeaky clean too. So it's like the whole experience improves. Okay, dramatically.
Tracy, what have you noticed?
I would say it's fast and it's.
Let's give you the spotlight. Hang on.
yeah. Tell all.
Go off video for this one. No, it's definitely changed. I mean, it's regular. It's very fast. It's very large quantities. But
yeah,
you know, you're in and out of the bathroom like nothing. I mean,
and the odor goes away, right?
No, yeah.
It smells like fruit. Smells like roses.
One thing I'll say is the stooling side of it, if somebody's having diarrhea problems with the detox, just eat straight plain fruit. Put the juice down, you know. You're going to need a little bit more fiber at that point. When you get cleaned out more, you can really start to play with the juices. And I only say that if you're concerned about being regular. You know, if you're like, okay, I'm okay with the diarrhea as long as I know I'm kicking butt on my detox, then go ahead and go with the juices, because the juices, you're going to get a deeper absorption. You get better absorption of the nutrients. I'm just only saying that if it's uncomfortable to people, right? If you want to have a better experience, take your time. You're not in a big hurry. Then just plain eat fruit. Just plain eat it. The only problem with plain eating fruit is that we don't have that great of fruit out there, you know, and a whole lot of the fruit's not that good. And so people like to do the juicing, because then you can take like mediocre oranges or something, and it's better, you know, you just rather juice them and drink it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what you learn as you go, you know. But if you're into really good fruit and they're super delicious and tasting good, just plain eat them, because also you got the digestive enzymes in your mouth, you know, triggering, and it's more appropriate for the digestion of it to just eat it.
Well, I was told once, like I do the smoothies because that to me is just the most convenient. Sometimes I'll snack on like grapes or something, but I was always told to chew your smoothie. So you get,
Yep.
don't just drink it real fast, but leave it in your mouth, you know, get the enzymes working.
Absolutely.
I can tell a big difference when I do that.
Yeah, I like a thick smoothie anyway, right? So
yeah.
Getting back to the bowel thing, conversely, to the question that was asked on YouTube, conversely, if you're doing this diet, Andy can tell you, and I can now back you on this, because I had a beach meetup on Saturday, and on my way home, guess what I did? I stopped and got pizza. And guess what happened? After a week of doing the the Fruitarianism thing, it went right through me, just like what happened to Andy a month ago. So, you know, if you're looking for what it will do to your bowel movements, yeah, it'll make them regular. Your urine will not smell at all. Your bowel movements will be regular, period, and consistent. But if you stray off, you're going to find that your body's going to flush out stuff that probably isn't the best thing for you to be eating. And I felt a little guilty after I ate that pizza.
Yeah, it's like the body gets offended by it, huh? The body's like, well, what's this? You know, I thought we were going to do the other plan, and it'll just violently rejects it because it's like the cells are so alive and so capable that they just reject anything that's not that higher quality, you know?
It was yummy too, but it wasn't worth it.
One thing I want to do to just make sure that people don't get the wrong kind of expectations. We talk about the urine and the stool losing the odor, but at first, depending on how toxic you are, it could be the most horrendous smelling urine and everything else, the worst stuff you ever imagined coming out at first. So you think, oh my gosh, fruit gave me the worst thing ever when I, you know, in the bathroom. And it's like, yeah, that was actually helping you, and you didn't realize. You just needed to stick through it, because when you push through that and get through to the other side, then it gets to where we're talking.
Here's a question from Sherry. What can you do if in detox your colon swells shut?
The colon should not be swelling shut during detox at all. The colon should be opening up, because if the colon is swelling shut, that's a spastic type situation. And usually, well, basically almost always, it's protein acids or some level of acidosis that has stimulated the bowels such that it becomes spastic. So the question I would ask is, what program are they doing detox on? Is it a fruit detox, or is it someone else's crazy wild detox? Because there's crazy detoxes out there, and some of them might be doing because people do these detoxes that are super aggressive on their bowels. We don't play that game. We do a gentle fruit detox. The thing about a fruit detox is it's not dangerous. You know what I'm saying? It couldn't be more loving for your body. It's a loving, gentle, soothing, calming experience. It's a relaxing experience. Fruit is an anti-spastic experience. It relaxes the muscles. It relaxes the bowels. You know, I mean, if anything, you take somebody who's constipated, you put them on fruit, and it relaxes things and things open up. So there's something suspicious about the claim on that one.
Okay. Here's a comment and a question from Alice Hansen. In my research on Fruitarianism, I came across information on Steve Jobs and opinions that claimed it caused his pancreatic cancer. What are possible drawbacks on a fruit diet? Possible malnutrition?
So there's a couple of things on that one to consider. This is a common, it gets brought up a lot. I did a little bit of research into it. I didn't dig all the way into it, but from what I could gather, number one, that was a very dangerous pancreatic cancer that he knew about. As far as I know, at least a decade prior, if not 20 years prior, and maybe even longer than that, it was known. That's why he was on the fruit diet. So if anything, he survived a cancer that would have killed him within a year to 2 years. He survived it for 20, 30 years because of the fruit. Okay. So that's one thing to consider. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying that that's my basic research. That's what I found out. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. The other thing is that I also heard that he was doing like an apple and a carrot or something like that a day. And he would do the same thing every single day. Now, maybe somebody in the chat can correct me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what I heard. Now, if that's true, number one, I would not be doing a vegetable. I would not at all. If I had a pancreatic cancer, no way. That vegetable is not helping. Like you don't have to look any further than the carrot juices and stuff. People were trying to do carrot juice to cure cancer and things. And these vegetable juices just don't cut it because it's just not the food for humans, according to what I'm professing here. So I would say that even if it was what everybody thinks, one apple a day, guys, I'm doing 10 apples a day, 5 oranges, 4 lemons, 5 lime. You see what I'm saying? I'm like, I wouldn't recommend 1 apple a day to anybody. Okay. That's another problem. So there's a lot of issues. And then also let's just kind of put it out there that, how can I say this gently? But when you look at certain groupings of people on earth that sometimes don't always tell the truth to mislead so that we don't always find the remedy, it would be a perfect way to make fruit look bad, wouldn't it? So just kind of be aware of possible disinformation and misinformation out there and do your homework and dig in. I only scratched that one. If anybody's got better research on it, please bring it forward. But that's the best I got.
Okay. Okay. Here's a question I ran into from Imelda. And she said, I can't do only fruits. I have low blood sugar and I pass out, but she does juice in the morning. Is Fruitarianism okay for somebody with low blood sugar?
Now, isn't this interesting here? Now, let's just take a note. How is it that somebody with low blood sugar, fruit doesn't pick their sugar up? Doesn't that seem a little bit weird? Because I thought everybody was complaining about fruit sugar being too much sugar. See what I'm saying? And the reason is because fruit has the lowest glycemic index. It's a 19 on the glycemic index, where glucose is 90. A russet potato is 120. Okay. So because fruit has the lowest glycemic index, it's not picking her up. So what I would suggest for somebody like that is I would say, go ahead and keep doing your juicing, but bring in dates. Bring in some of these fruits that are even more concentrated in their sugars and blend them into your smoothie and pick that up a little bit. And then I would also just do more fruit. She's probably not doing enough. You know, if your sugar's staying low, then kick it up. You got to kick those fruits up and go more. But yeah, so that's.
You mentioned something the last time too that was interesting about people who may have allergies or say that they have allergies to fruit. You said it's pretty much the contrary. What it's telling you is that, well, I'll let you explain it in your own words.
Yeah. So the allergy, unless it's a anaphylactic shock, so pretty much you could say that from what I'm trying to say here is that most of the allergies are actually detox symptoms, misinterpreted. So I've heard it many, many times. People be like, oh, well, I'm allergic to watermelon. As soon as I eat watermelon, my whole throat, everything just swells up. And you look in their eyes and they couldn't be more acidic. And it's like, no, that's just because watermelon by the way, watermelon are very powerful detoxer. So you would think just a simple, a humble little watermelon, what could it do? Go ahead and live on watermelons for a little while and see what happens to you. It's just such a powerful detoxer. So yeah, that would be my take on that. Just if you look closer at those allergy symptoms, you'll realize it's your body's expectorating. You know, a runny nose. If you get all the things that could come from those allergies, you notice what's happening. Expectoration. The body's is starting to push stuff out. Is because the body can safely remove the acids. Remember, acids are stored safely in the fat of the body. And as soon as the bicarbonates come on, the body's like, okay, go, go, go. Let's pull the acids out and get them out, expectorate them. So it starts accessing the acidosis that's been on storage. So as soon as you put bicarbonate in, bango, here comes the detox symptoms, because the body's going to take its very first opportunity that it gets, because it's desperate to get rid of those acids. So it's just, and that's why if you take somebody acidic and put them on a drink like this, they'll go instantly into detox symptoms.
Here's a great question from Stephanie Allen. What is the difference in the efficacy between organic and GMO? We touched on it last week, but it's a great question.
The efficacy?
Mm-hmm. Why is it better to have GMO? In other words, what would be the benefits? Not GMO. What would be the benefits of having organic over GMO?
Oh yeah. One of the problems with the GMO is that you get into these wild foreign chemistries that, and especially if you're talking about the grains, you know, like wheat GMO. Now you're talking about a protein that is a foreign engineered protein. Now, we talked a little bit about how acids are like the sun, right? And so when you have a protein acid, protein is a concentration of amino acids, a complex chain of amino acids, which is sort of like a constellation of stars, okay? So if you think of a protein as a constellation of stars, as above, so below, you're gonna see that constellation has a vibrational tone. It has a vibrational signature to it. And so when you take in that foreign protein and that foreign GMO chemistry, it's got a vibration. And the body has to basically take that all apart, disassemble it, rip it apart, and reassemble it to your vibration, which is set by your DNA. The DNA is singing a song. And so it's going to have to rip apart that crazy, wild, who knows what engineered protein and rebuild it into you and sing the song of you. And so you don't really want to have to mess with all that. So when you go to fruit, and especially organic fruit, you're going to have naturally occurring, and by the way, mono amino acids. You're not into the complex chain of amino acids of protein. Now you've got mono aminos that your body can just build with and make you in a more perfect sense. See what I'm saying? It'll build a more perfect you according to the blueprint of your DNA, because you're working with a simple base chemistry. So the body doesn't have to rip apart like a pig or something like that, or a GMO, to try to rebuild a perfect you, you know? So why would we want to start with some foreign, strange chemistry that we know nothing about? And the only thing we know is that we can't trust it. That much we know. But then versus a natural mono amino chemistry. So again, some of this stuff we're erring on the safe side, you know? I mean, that's part of it. There's a lot of science to show some of the damages but I would say it's more of a frequency thing. You know, that would be my main point on that. It's a tonal problem.
But conversely, you said, this came up last week, and I highly recommend, if you didn't catch last week's show, check it out, because there's a ton more questions on there that Andy answered. But conversely, there was some kind of study, or somebody had something that was really nasty, some virus or whatever, and they could only afford GMOs, and they still overcame it. It might have taken them longer to overcome that, but they did. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, and Dr. Morse has talked about it. I've experienced it myself. I've even played with it myself. I sometimes that's all I've got is GMO fruit. I've had it, and I do. But here's what I would say about that. If you're in a region where all you've got is GMO fruit, I can almost guarantee that every single other choice you have is GMO chips, GMO potato chips, I mean, everything else is GMO too, right? Because if you go into a grocery store where there's no organic, then everything's not organic. And so you're still going to be better off with the fruit. See what I mean? So no matter, you just do the best you can. And to answer your question more directly, yes, we have seen success just where they have absolutely no access to anything but GMO fruit and still totally have success. I don't remember if that was a cancer case. Dr. Morse talks about it. It was in Alaska. They basically had gas station fruit to work with, and they still cured their ailment. But like I said, I can't remember if it was cancer or what it was. I could try to research and find where he talks about that. But that was one case that he does directly refer to. So
Sherry's asking, and thank you for answering all these questions from our chat room here. Sherry's asking, how can you heal, or basically, can you heal systemic candida and leaky gut with a fruit diet?
100%. Absolutely. The leaky gut, I would suspect that that individual has a thyroid, parathyroid weakness, just like what we're doing with Tracy with the herniation type situation. What you do is you get the strength of the tissue starts to weaken, and you get that sort of thing. So can't say for sure, but I would bet that that person's got a thyroid problem. There was leaky gut, and what was the other deal?
Candida.
Oh, candida. So now there you're talking sugar metabolism. You're going to get into an adrenal fatigue. So it's, and why are the adrenals down? Kidneys are down. Same old problem. And yes, the fruit solves it, because see what happens is the fruit will fix up the kidneys, and then and thereby the adrenals. So that'll deal with the candida. And also by fixing the kidneys, it fixes up the parathyroid and thyroid and parathyroid, which is going to fix the tissue strength, the weakening of the tissues. So basically this is an individual where their body's given up calcium as an antacid. So
I have a friend that was recently, I think on Friday, diagnosed with GERD and prescribed Prilosec. What would you say to that?
Yeah, so again, we're back to an acidosis problem. As far as that prescription, I would get on the fruit, get detoxing, and work with the doctor to titrate off, because
By that, titrate off.
Titrate means just to come away from that safely. If they've just barely gotten on it, they could get off it, but I can guarantee we get people off all kinds of stuff all the time, because really they're just treating symptoms with those sort of things. The symptoms are coming from the acidosis. So when you detox the acidosis out, you don't need the supplement, or you don't need the medication anymore. So that's why I say titrate off. So what I would do is I'd go on the fruit first and get rid of the symptoms, and then you no longer need the treatment. See what I mean? So I would work with the doctor to do that. So, that's important. That's important to do that. But the fruit
like I said, she was just diagnosed that on Friday, so she hasn't really been on Prilosec for that long.
Yeah, there would be no titration then. Yeah, in that case, there's no titration at all, really. The question is just a question of, I'm taking a quick look here. But because that isn't GERD. Can you remind me on GERD, because I'm just looking into that right now, make sure I'm understanding exactly what we're looking at on the symptoms.
Yeah, let me pull it up on a screen share
or something like that. Yeah, it's acid reflux.
Yeah. But with her issue, it's she's unable to digest anything. It goes down and it comes back up again, and she needs like a cup to spit in.
I'm looking in a couple of things here.
Yeah, gastroesophageal reflux disease.
Right off the bat, the reflux is because the body doesn't have sufficient bicarbonate to neutralize the acids in the stomach, and so it's a pancreatic weakness, I would imagine, in that sense. But specifically, yeah, you're back to the same old problem. Low on the bicarbonate reserves in the body, which you're going to get from the fruit, and then with the rejection of the foods. I mean, this is a GI tract issue. I would suppose in the eyes, if that individual takes a look in their eyes, I bet right around the pupil, just all the way around the pupil, is probably pretty dark. So that the entire GI tract, especially because the GI tract starts at the tongue all the way in one end and out the other, right? So when your GI tract is down, like if your whole GI tract is down, all the way up the throat, your mouth, your teeth, your tongue, everything will be more dirty. You'll notice that you'll have a dirty tongue, a dirty mouth, because the whole GI tract is dirty. So this is a person who's going to want to really detox their GI tract all the way through thoroughly. But again, we're back to the berries. They're the most bicarbonate. They're going to really pull the acids out of the bowel wall and that sort of thing. So it's kind of crazy because we're onto such a simple truth here that you end up starting a little bit sounding like a broken record.
Right.
But it's okay. I mean, it's fine to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. There's no problem repeating it. But you'll find as we go explore all of these things, because you have to realize around every single cell is an interstitial fluid. The interstitial fluid is shared throughout the entire body. It doesn't move that fast if you're really acidic, so that it's not, but the point being that it's like an ocean, right? It's one singular ocean. So when the kidneys go down and back up and pollute that ocean, your entire ocean from head to toe that's culturing the cells is all one big sewage. And so the question is, where are you going to break? Because you're going to break at your weak link, right? And so we're all different and unique. So some people will have this kind of an interesting, rare, weird problem because they broke at that link. And with 100 trillion cells, that's a lot of different unique links to break at. See what I mean? And so it ends up looking like this vast spectrum of plagues that God just plagued humanity with a million problems. You know what I mean? No, not actually. You plagued yourself with one problem. You were eating the wrong food.
Okay. Well, I'm going to unmute the chat room right now. If there's anybody in the chat room, yourself included, Trace, if you have any more questions. Yeah, your hand was up, as a matter of fact.
Oh, that was my boron question.
Okay. But yeah, you guys are all unmuted. If you have any questions for Andy, you're more than welcome.
I did notice one question here from somebody in the chat on the Zoom. They're talking about their colon here, and it says, how would a detox and the whole acid thing work if a person no longer has a colon? I know he said don't remove things, so I was wondering how that would affect everything in a person's body if they no longer had a colon. So, once again, we're back to the same old story again here. It really, really is the same answer over and over again. The question is, how aggressive do you want to get with your detox, with your regeneration? In other words, with this person, you're looking at the same story. You go on the fruits because that's your best choice. And particularly, I would say the smoothies for more easy digestion, but the reality is when you go on a food like this, it's so digestible, so absorbable by the body that even if you're missing part of your GI tract, you're still going to get great absorption from it. So whereas if you go to any of the other foods, you're going to struggle big time trying to digest that. There's nothing easier to digest than fruit. And then it's particularly when you go onto the super berries, now any degree of absorption that you get is going to be really good for, you're going to, you know what I mean? It's such a potent and powerful food source that even if you're only at, say, 30% absorption because of missing parts of the colon or whatever, or parts of the GI tract, you're still going to get great absorption. So it's your best case scenario is basically what I'm saying. So what you want to do is you want to get real focused on a situation like that and really try to focus in and shop. You become a hunter of fruit, take pride in the fact that you're a hunter of great fruit. That's when things started to really get good for me, because you start enjoying the food a lot more, and it's fun to do too. You get good at it. You get knowing where to go and how to time it. It takes practice. When you launch out at first, it's a little bit frustrating because you're not really used to it. But as you get good, I know I've gotten so good at it now. I know exactly where to go to get all the best fruits that I know that are going to work for me. So,
do we have any other questions here in Zoom? I got a couple more if you guys don't, but I just figured I'd let you guys ask away.
Off subject from humans, but what do you feel about pets eating fruits?
Absolutely. Yeah, pets are great. Pets do really good on fruit. The only one that we've seen that doesn't really respond well is cats. Dr. Morse talks about that. I personally have not experimented with cats, but it makes sense that but they've tried, they've had cats that were sick and they try to use fruit. It just doesn't seem to do anything. Doesn't seem to help them. But every other animal, the omnivores, the herbivores, the frugivores, like you can go to an omnivore and feed it in, like take an apple to a horse and see what it does. It'll love that apple. You know what I mean? So all the other animals do really good. So, and as far as the cats are concerned, it's a blind spot for us. We just don't know.
When you fast, when you go on a fast, do you use any juice or is it water?
Well, you can either do a dry fast or you can do a water fast, or you can even do a coconut water fast, or people just do juice fasts. So they're not really fasts because you're eating those things, but we call it that just because. But I personally, I basically what I like to do for a fast is breakfast and lunch and skip dinner. And that would be a good way because then you're doing just intermittent fasting. And but if you want to dig deeper into the fast, there's a whole lot on that. But I would refer to other people on that. There's that have more professional approach on fasting, because you got to be a little bit careful with fasting. You know, that's the thing about fruit, guys. One of the things I really love about fruit is it's safe to do. You know, if you just jump into fasting and you're super dehydrated, you know, you can have some blowback from that. Fasting is very powerful and it's great and I love it. It's really, really good. But what I would recommend is if you're going to explore fasting, it's really good to do a bunch of fruit first, get yourself hydrated, get yourself detoxed, and then go into a fast and enjoy that, and then come out of the fast with fruit again. And so that'd be the best way to approach that, I would say.
What about omega 3s? How does somebody get omega 3s from fruit?
So basically, again, when you go back to fruit, every living cell is the membrane of the cell is fat. So just the fact that you're eating all those living cells, you're getting plenty of fat. And when you look at these different oil deficiencies, I don't know, I'd have to look at the science on that to see, because you see these claims. Here's the problem. When we have all this acidosis out there in the world, people are using crazy different all kinds of things to solve all these myriad problems. Remember I was talking about 100 trillion cells and you break at your weak link? That's a lot of unique links to break at. So it looks like a mineral deficiency. It looks like an oil deficiency. It looks like all these deficiencies, but it's actually a utilization problem, because the body, as it breaks down, it stops utilizing minerals. It stops utilizing nutrients correctly. So it's not so much a dietary deficiency as it is a utilization problem. So when you get rid of the wrong food, if you stop eating the wrong food and you start eating the food that we were designed to run on, all these so-called deficiencies just disappear. They're just not there. And it's just interesting that way. So that's the best I can answer that, is that when the nutrition, the amount, we don't have a nutrition problem. When you're on this, there's Dr. Morse in 55 years, he says he's never seen a nutritional problem ever on any individual.
So what you're saying then basically is you don't need omega 3s?
Well, I don't know about the claim of the omega 3s and the omega 1s. You know, there's a lot of big claims out there and they act like that. Oh no, if without that, your body dies. But why is it when I go on fruit, it's not about, there's no issue with the 3s or the 6s, or there's not a fat problem, period. In fact, if anything, you're cleaning all the fats of the body and you end up with really healthy, clean fat all over the body. See what I mean? So they make a claim like you have to have omega 3s. And it's like, oh, really? Are you sure? Are you really sure about that? You know, so you just have to question a lot of these claims, you know. There's a lot out there. Obviously, I've researched the 3s and 6s a little bit because I got into keto at one point. Before I got into fruit, I was really looking at keto. And just briefly, since we're on keto, the essence of keto, high fat. Well, your body is using fat to insulate acidosis. Okay. So if you go on a high fat diet, you're going to feel quite a bit better because your acidosis is insulated better, you know? So as you bring in the fats, all these different oils, you'll get some relief, like CBD oils, and there's all these oils, and you'll get some relief, and you'll be like, yeah, I was low on fat. That was my problem. I was missing fats. As soon as I went on the fats, I started feeling better. See what I mean? Oh, but that was just because your acidosis was getting a little too hot to handle. So when you went on the fats, it kind of cooled everything off, but it didn't cool it off. It just insulated it. So it kind of kicked the can down the road. It didn't get the acids out. It didn't neutralize the acids. It didn't do anything with the acids. And so keto doesn't relieve your acidosis. It just protects you from your acidosis. See what I mean? Which would make you think, oh, I've got to have these oils to feel better. See how confusing it can be? And when you get rid of all that and go back to the natural food for man, all of a sudden there's not a fat problem. Nobody has a fat problem anywhere. And you're not supplementing O3s. You're not supplementing 6s. So you just have to watch out, because there's misunderstandings and misinterpretations all over the place. That's why we come back to the simple truth. We're frugivores. Be a good monkey and eat your fruit. It sounds a little too simple, but you'll find the more you look into it, it's a safe bet.
So would that be a similar answer for vitamin D, calcium, iron?
Yep. Yes, 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 and yes. And that's why we don't supplement anything. Dr. Morse does no supplementation. Some people have argued that the herbal tinctures are technically a supplement. You could maybe think of it in that way. But what he's trying to say is we don't do isolated chemistry. So when you isolate the omega-3s, isolate the 6s, isolating this, isolating that, that's when you almost always go wrong. In fact, I can't think of a time you go right.
Okay. I think that wraps it up for all the questions we have right now. Is there anything you'd like to leave off with?
Let's see here. Yeah, I think I would just probably have the same message, for people. I would say, as last week, I would say, experiment with it. Try it for yourself. Do it for a couple, 2 or 3 weeks, see how you feel. See if what I'm saying is true. See if you start to detox. If you are detoxing, push through that. Get through the detox and then experiment a little bit more. In other words, don't let the detox trick you or fool you. Because a lot of times people will go onto the fruit, they'll start to detox and go, nope, not for me. And then they miss the remedy, So I would say, understand you're most likely in detox, push through. Well, you will be in detox. I know that. And push through that, get through the other side, and then have a little bit of period of regeneration. See, this is a twofold equation, detox and regeneration. Okay. So get through the detox symptoms, get into a little bit of regeneration, feel what that feels like, and then go back to your cooked food and try it and see how you feel. Just that would be, and just try it. And if it works for you and you find out that you're like, yeah, I did feel better, I like that, then at that point, I would say, get focused. Once you've made peace with it and you feel like, yeah, this is good for me, I think this is really what I want to do, then get focused. Because then you can really go to the next level, higher and higher and higher. And that's what I want to say is just come on up, climb Fruit Mountain, because the view is beautiful from up there, So that would be what I would say. Don't get knocked off the course, because there's a lot of noise out there. You got to cut through the noise, do your own experimenting. And if you like it, then just really cut the noise and get it completely out and get focused and go up and just get with it. So that's what I would say.
Well, Tracy and I can both attest to positive results after 1 week of being doing the Fruitarianism, and I've definitely seen good results so far. So good. I would recommend it for detoxing, for losing weight at this point, if that's what you're looking for. So that's all go on that. So I want to thank you for that. Just real quick, I want to send you guys also to in5d.net. Check out these t-shirts real quick. They're beautiful, full of energy. Andy got 4 of them. Have you received them yet, Andy?
Well, I'm in Salt Lake right now. I'm not even at my home, and then I'm headed for India. So I was hoping I could get them, but I was too late to order them before going. There was not.
Man, yeah.
You shipped them out the same day.
Yes, I did. As soon as you ordered them.
I also left like the day after that, and I was like, oh man, that was great to India with me,
Okay, well, they'll be home
when I come home. A nice present, but I can't wait.
Heck yeah. Well, and thank you for ordering them. Also, I just want to point out that we have a In5D Patreon that helps immensely to bring you this product via Zoom, and as well as to help support In5D and our dedicated servers that we have. So it's been a total pleasure having you on once again. We'll make arrangements to bring you back, and we'll put a link to your Facebook page in the more info section below the video. And Tracy, thanks again for being the sacrificial guinea pig with your eyes.
A lot. It was amazing. Thank you, Andy.
Yes, thank you, Tracy. That was awesome of you to do that, and both of you guys to provide that opportunity for everybody. And one thing I was going to say is let's try to do a call-in show where people can send us the eyes, send them in. I'll try to get set up next month to where we can receive those pictures efficiently and make a nice show out of it, because I think that would be a lot of fun, because so many of these questions, we could really get into a wonderful detailed answer and really spread the word on the iridology, guys, because that is man, I tell you what, to be able to just, for your family and friends, for your children, all that, to be able, because it's not that complicated of a science. It really isn't. It's not too hard. And I'll be more than happy to continue to teach that, because that is the most powerful soft tissue analysis that you can do on your body. And it's non-invasive. You don't have to go biopsying and poking and prodding and cutting stuff out. You know what I mean? And you can just, and you get more than enough information to know what you're up against. So it's perfect. It goes really good with the fruit detox, because like people will ask, when I'm detoxing, how do I know when I'm done? And you can say, well, number one, how good do you want to feel? And number two, let's look in your eyes, because I can tell how far along you are. I know exactly how far along you are based on what's going on in the eyes. So the combination of the fruit detox and regeneration and iridology, they're just a match made in heaven. So
it's going to be interesting to watch Tracy and my eyes progress as we go through this as well.
Absolutely.
I'm curious about Tracy's Pac-Man.
And I'm right there with you guys, and we can do my eyes too. So, and because I'm watching my eyes as we go as well. So I'm in the same journey.
All right. So looking forward to that. I'll get in touch with you. And anyone that's trying to get in touch with Andy, he's going to be in India. He might not be available, but in time, he probably will get back to you. So we will leave that link to his Facebook page in the more info section.
Yes, I'll make every effort to reply and comment to everybody. So just be a little bit patient with me, because it is for about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks is going to be a little chaotic, but next month. So just be patient. I'll do my best to get back to everybody.
You're going to get flooded, brother. I know it. You're going to be flooded.
I already have been.
Yeah, I figured.
But I'll still make every effort to get back to everybody. So.
Okay. So that's going to wrap it up.
Okay.
And I want to thank everyone for joining us on YouTube and here on Zoom. And I'm sending everyone all infinite love and light. Until the next time, this is Gregg from In5D.com on behalf of Andy and Tracy. Namaste.
Bye.